Good evening, everyone. We'd like to call this meeting to order. We can stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This meeting is being recorded and live streamed through the Limerick Township YouTube page, www.youtube.com/Limerick Township 1726. We had an executive session before the meeting tonight on legal and personnel matters. Be sure to stay in touch and alert with what's happening in the township. Go to the township website, click notify me, and you'll get further instructions. I actually did this myself, and I have seen some people online saying that the algorithm of Facebook, they're not getting the announcements about the meetings. But if you actually do this, as soon as Tim loaded our documents for our meeting tonight, I got a text with a link that went straight to those documents. So it's a nice way to get that information right to your phone. Be sure to like us on Facebook and subscribe to the YouTube page again at Limerick Township 1726. The Board of Supervisors will be having a workshop meeting for the comp plan presentation Monday, July 13th at 6 p.m. here at the Township Building. I do want to make note that this will not be live streamed, and this is not done to exclude the public. We are doing this because we're hearing 5 presentations from 5 different companies on our comp plan, and we don't want anyone to get to see the questions and the information from the other companies. So we want the best possible outcome for Limerick, and so we don't want there to be any imbalance in there, so that's why we're doing it that way. We also have our upcoming MCD7 LLC Data Center Public Hearing Meeting, Tuesday, July 21st at 6:30 p.m. Some of you may know that as Project Laurel. Park and Rec is busy as always. They have the Firehouse Adventure Academy starting July 14th at 9 a.m. It's $10 per person, and it's located at the Limerick Township Fire Station. We also have our Limerick Ice Cream Summer Social Bash, and that is going to be July 18th at 1 p.m. at Limerick's own Scoop DeVille. And then we have a summer concert done by the School of Rock. It is going to be held right here at Veterans Pavilion, right beside us, July 23rd at 7 p.m. And Dan, I think you have a special announcement for us.
I do. I just want to take this opportunity while we have so many of our first responders in here to thank our entire emergency management team here in Limerick for the work they did last Thursday in the heat wave when the 250 train came through. I heard the reports about thousands of people that showed up. The roads were clogged. It overwhelmed us. It overwhelmed all our personnel, but I heard everybody contributed greatly, from the police department to the Limerick Fire Department to Freedom Valley Medical Rescue to Sean Semmels, our fire marshal, and his entire team were out there directing traffic, keeping people safe. The heat was taking a toll on all our emergency personnel to the point where we had to call in additional ambulances. And I want to thank Friendship, who brought in teams in, Chalfont from Bucks County, who came in, and Paoli Ambulance from Chester County. I just heard the reports of how everybody worked so great together during that heat with a train that was an hour delayed, and but great work by our entire emergency management team. I just want to thank everybody.
Great, thank you, Dan. And at this time, I'm going to turn the floor over to Chief Matalavin.
Thank you. All right. Good evening, everybody. Tonight is my pleasure to welcome the following 2 young men as the department's newest police officers. I'd like to introduce Jack Hughes and Austin White. Gentlemen, if you could come forward. They both graduated from the Montgomery County Community College Police Academy in June. Both men had undergone a rigorous testing procedure to include a written exam, several oral interviews, extensive background investigations, as well as polygraph and physical and psychological examinations. At the conclusion of this process, both Jack and Austin were determined worthy to become Limerick Township police officers. Jack is a Harleysville resident with a degree in criminal justice from Bloomsburg University. Austin lives in Phoenixville with his wife and son, and one on the way. Austin has a degree in sports management from Kutztown University. And I would like to wish both these gentlemen a very long and especially safe career with the Limerick Township Police Department. It's my pleasure to welcome you. Should be very proud. We're proud of you. It was no easy task. We do have a very rigorous process, and we just look for the best possible people we can. There are times when we test, and if we don't find what we're looking for, we just don't settle. We start all over again. So this is something you two guys can be very proud of, and we're proud of you. Welcome aboard.
Thank you. And at this time, do I have a motion to appoint Jack Hughes and Austin White as Limerick Township police officers?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any board comment?
Welcome.
Any resident comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Welcome aboard. You want it here? Okay. Do you, Jack Hughes, having been duly appointed a police officer of the Township of Limerick, solemnly swear that you will support, obey, and defend the Let me start that all over again. Thank you, Tim. Okay. Thank you. Do you, Jack Hughes, having been duly appointed a police officer for the Township of Limerick, solemnly swear that you will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States of America, the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, the ordinance of Limerick Township, and that you will perform and discharge the duties of the office as a police officer for Limerick Township with fidelity? Do you further swear that you will uphold, obey, and enforce the law without consideration to a person's race, color, sex, religious creed, sexual orientation, age, national origin, ancestry, handicap, or disability? Perfect. Congratulations. Thank you. Do you, Austin White, having been duly appointed a police officer for the Township of Limerick, solemnly swear that you will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States of America, the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, the ordinance of the Township of Limerick, and that you will perform and discharge the duties of your office as a police officer for Limerick Township with fidelity? And do you further swear that you will uphold, obey, and enforce the law without consideration to a person's race, color, sex, religious creed, sexual orientation, age, national origin, ancestry, handicap, or disability? Excellent. Congratulations. And would the board like to join me for some photos, please? Would the board like to come and join us for some photos?
Yes. If I could, I'd like to ask the board for a motion to amend the agenda this evening. Late today, we received a request from Trap Borough asking for fire police support this Saturday, July 11th, for their fireworks event. And if we send our fire police down, the reason that we asked the board to approve this is because they will be covered on the township's workers' compensation policy. So the board has to act on it. So I ask the board if there's a motion to amend the agenda.
Make a motion to amend the agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any board comment? Any resident comment? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
I would ask the board now for a motion to approve allowing our fire police to attend the Trap fireworks show this Saturday, the 11th.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any board comment? Do I have any resident comment? Favor?
Aye.
Aye. Moving on to our bills list. Bills list number 13 for June 2026 through July 3rd, 2026, in the amount of $730,205.59.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any board comment? I do real quick, Glenn. I'm seeing another payout for a vehicle. Is that the third police car?
That is the third police car, the three that were approved with the budget amendment that we did.
Perfect, thank you. Any resident comment? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Subdivision and land development. Before us is a resolution for One Penn Road that was reviewed by the board on 6/23/2026. Good evening.
Good evening.
Rob Sebia from Elliott Greenleaf on behalf of the applicant Ken Sparing. We were before the board about 2 weeks ago where we reviewed the application. We are in receipt of the resolution. Ken has signed it. If the board has any questions or if you'd like me to go over the plan, I'm happy to do so.
Nope. None for me. Board has no questions? Does the board need to review the plan? No? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the preliminary final resolution for 1 Penn Road SLD project 26-04?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any board comment? Do I have any resident comment? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoy your evening. And we have a confirmed appointment from Anthony Copeland. Did I do okay?
Yes.
Okay. It's commercial building, 206 Joseph Boulevard.
That's correct, yes. The applicant being Micro Coax Inc. is with me here tonight.
And they are here with you this evening?
Yes.
Okay. Before we get into the technical details, I am a little curious. Do you mind telling me a little bit about your company that's in Limerick?
Hello. So Microcoax, we build coaxial cables and cable assemblies for the space and defense industry.
Thank you very much. Thanks. And I'm just going to ask that you slide the microphone closer to you and make sure that you're speaking into the microphone. We want our YouTube participants to hear us.
Certainly. Yeah, the board may remember in 2008, Microcoax had a land development plan before you. That plan has not been proceeded with, and the approval, I'm told, is outdated since that period. The project that we would like to propose before you here tonight is a concept sketch. We'd like to sit down with staff to discuss the different aspects of the project. It's a smaller, much smaller project, about 1/5 of what used to be proposed 2008. This would comprise just under an acre of earth disturbance and approximately 7,666 square feet of new building addition. The building would be 2 floors, workspace and manufacturing, light manufacturing on the ground floor and office on the second floor. No new loading is proposed as the site is already accessed from Commerce Port for the loading dock. 45 space parking lot is proposed to support the addition in compliance with the township's code. In fact, we ran through the different aspects of the code. There will be no variances asked. Every zoning code will be complied with, the application, and the growth that Microcoax is seeing would all be contained in this size facility. So with that, on the upper yellow highlighted area is the addition itself. The addition will be connected on 2 sides to the existing building. All utilities will be taken from that building, and a small dock just to the left side will be used to bring in equipment, refresh equipment, its own personal use. It's not for shipping in or shipping out product. So that's not going to be used a lot, but they do need it because of the equipment that they utilize for the manufacturing process. The technology just, it changes. The right to the bottom left side of that upper left, right in there, there's an existing nitrogen.
It's an existing liquid nitrogen.
The access to that tank has never been satisfactory to the gas delivery company, and they would like us to level that up a bit. So we wrap that into this project as well. It's right at the area we're doing the addition. The lower highlighted
There
area.
are some like little pointers if you felt more comfortable doing that. Yeah.
This lower highlighted area is the 45 space parking. No new driveways to Commerce or to Airport are proposed. The existing driveway will operate for the employees working in the plant. I understand that's for more of the manufacturing employees than the office employees. So where the office employees are parking will remain, and they'll use the front doors. The manufacturing employees will key in with their fobs at these rear or side doors. The parking is meant to be far enough away where it won't have any impact with the current shipping area. So a standard tractor trailer, actually two of them, and a drive-up bay will not be affected by the access here, the workers that are inside. As I said, I stepped through all of the codes, the area, the dimensional standards, the minimum lot area, minimum lot width, maximum impervious, the minimum green area, the maximum building coverage, all the building setbacks, the parking requirements, parking setbacks, and the building setbacks, and everything will be compliant. So the ask tonight is that you allow us to sit with staff and put some more detail on this so that we can file a land development application that will come before you and the Planning Commission once we get some input from staff. Any questions?
Do we have any board questions or comments?
I just have a couple of questions, just for knowledge. How many jobs do you think you will bring as part of into the township as part of your expansion into this?
So by the end of this year, we'll be approximately at around a 240 head count. We've had a growth rate in our business of 40% year over year. So we are planning for this to be able to feed the business for a number of years at a similar growth rate.
Is it skilled labor? Is it like
Yes.
a 24-hour shift?
It is skilled labor. It is 2 shifts.
Okay.
Right now. We run a 2-shift operation Monday through Friday.
Thank you. Yep. I'm in support of your project.
Any other board questions?
Just a quick comment. I appreciate you being in the township, and I appreciate you coming to us and working through this. I look forward to going to staff and them helping you with this. We'd really like for you to stay in the township, so this is a good project. Thank you.
Great. Do we have any resident comment or any additional board comment? All right, so I guess the question before us, do we want to take a vote to send them to staff? Okay. I believe we have the direction to send you to staff.
Thank you so much.
I heard no opposition from up here. There we go.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, before us, we have an indefinite extension for Bellstone. Do I have a motion to accept the development time review extension?
So moved.
Second.
Any board comment? Any resident comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we're moving on to our first public hearing for this evening. At this time, because this is a conditional use hearing, I will turn the floor over to our solicitor, Rebecca Geiser.
Thank you. This is conditional use application 26-02. The address is 442 North Lewis Road here in Limerick Township. The applicant is North Lewis Road LLC. The applicant proposes to construct a 5,200 square foot veterinary office building, not to include a kennel or boarding facility for animals not receiving medical care. The proposed primary entrance is located on the south side of the property, and the secondary access is a driveway shared with adjacent 460 North Lewis Road, Scoop the Bill. That is located on the north side of the property. The use proposes 38 parking spaces, and all existing structures consisting of a previous flower shop, business house, building, and shed would be demolished. The sidewalk along North Lewis Road will remain. The facility will be serviced by both public water and sewer. At this point, I would open the public hearing and mark the following exhibits into the record. T1 is an email to the Pottstown Mercury dated June 22nd, 2026 for the purposes of advertising tonight's hearing. T2 is proof of publication, and it was published on June the 23rd and June the 30th of 2026 as required by the MPC. T3 is the affidavit of posting that was dated June 24th of 2026. T4 are letters to adjacent property owners that were sent on June 25th of 2026. T5 is communication to the Planning Commission dated June 5th of 2026. T6 is the application for conditional use. T7 is the legal notice. T8 is a letter extension from the applicant for their public hearing, granting additional time through tonight for purposes of holding the hearing. T9 is the review letter from Pannoni Engineers. That letter is dated April 23rd of 2026. T10 is the letter from TPD, our traffic engineer, and that was originally dated April 23rd of 2026 and later revised on June 4th of 2026. And finally, the minutes are not in, but the Planning Commission for Limerick did review the application and recommended approval on June the 11th of 2026. Ms. Bernstein is here on behalf of the applicant. At this time, I would ask Ms. Lawson to accept the township's exhibits into the record. And again, the applicant may have exhibits. And just some background for the audience. I know many of you, I recognize you, you're familiar with conditional use hearings. However, for those of you that are not, conditional use is a process that's intended to give the Board of Supervisors ability to review a potential project and determine if it meets the conditions, and also to impose reasonable conditions for the application. If an applicant is able to meet the criteria under Limerick's conditional use ordinance, then they would receive conditional use approval. Again, party status. Since this is a conditional use hearing, much like a zoning hearing board hearing, there's something called a party status. So a party status is a legal designation that would allow you to appear either with or without an attorney, much like the applicant's appearing, and you would have the opportunity to cross-examine witnesses. You would have the opportunity to present your own evidence at a later point. It is not required to have party status to voice your opinion either for or against the application during the hearing. At the close of the hearing, towards the end of the hearing, before the board votes, they will take public comment from anybody in the audience who's a Limerick resident and requests to be heard. So you do not need party status to be heard. You will be heard regardless of whether you're granted party status. Party status is that legal requirement. That being said, does anybody here request party status? Because I'll have some additional questions. The applicant may have some questions. I'm seeing none. So at this point, I would ask Ms. Bernstein to take over and present your case.
Great. Good evening. Julie Bernstein with Kaplan Stewart. We've been retained to represent the applicant, which is for 42 North Lewis Road LLC, in connection with their application seeking this conditional use approval to use the property as a professional veterinary office. If it's preferable for the board, I know you have a very big agenda. I do have the ability, I could do an offer of proof and have the witnesses I have with me confirm that if that's more comfortable for you to move this along. Otherwise, I can do a more traditional question and answer. I just wanted to make that offer.
The board chair leaves it to your discretion, your preference. Obviously, they may have questions, at which point your applicant may need to end up getting sworn in and testifying.
I think that's probably appropriate. That way I can move you guys through this. I know you have a very big agenda, so I'll be respectful of that. So on that note, so as mentioned, this office involves this application to propose to redevelop the site which is located at 442 North Lewis Road for use as a traditional veterinary office. I did just hand out a series of exhibit packets in support of this application. They are tabbed and pre-marked. Just as some housekeeping, I gave to all of the board of supervisors a full packet that included the entire transportation impact study at exhibit A11. For those who are not board of supervisors, I just gave you the first page. I do have an extra and I can email it. It's just a very, very large document. So with that, moving on to tab 1, I did kind of mark the application as exhibit A1. And then at tab 2, as exhibit A2, I included the deed for the property, which just demonstrates that the applicant has standing to bring this application. Then at tab 3, I did include a copy of Glenn Kozuski's CV. This is the civil engineer on the project sitting next to me, who I would call. As shown, he's a licensed engineer with significant experience in the Pennsylvania area. He's worked as both on the private and municipal side. He currently works for Bursick and Associates. I will call him at the end, and at the time I would like to offer him as an expert in civil engineering based upon his experience in this field. Then if everyone can turn to tab 4, I did include an illustrative aerial as exhibit A4. This just shows the subject property to orient everyone. The property is generally marked with that red icon on the map. It's on the east side of North Lewis Road, and it's just south of the Scoop DeVille ice cream parlor, and it's across the street from Chesterbrook Academy Preschool. The property is approximately 1.79 acres, and it's improved with buildings that you can sort of see in this aerial near that icon. And then the rear of the property really is largely wooded. If you turn to tab 5, we've included an existing conditions plan that was prepared by Bursick and Associates. This would be exhibit A5. And this further details the existing conditions on the site. As shown, it's improved with a building that most recently had been used as a florist. There's a residential dwelling on site, a barn kind of garage building, and then some accessory sheds. These improvements do take access off North Lewis Road. Technically, there are 2 full movement driveways that connect via U-shape. The driveway that's towards the north of this property currently has bollards and is kind of blockaded off. And right kind of behind that is where, on the northern side, that's where the parking area is for the property currently. It has 8 parking spaces that, as you can see on this plan, really kind of cross the line and push into the neighboring property as it's currently improved. The owners of the property that are here with me also own Main Street Vet. This is why they're purchasing this property. They're looking to open a new veterinary office. Their plan is to demolish these existing improvements and redevelop the property as mentioned. So if you turn to tab 6, exhibit A6, we did include a copy of the conditional use plan that's dated March 2nd, 2026. This is the plan that was initially submitted with the application, and it shows the initial iteration of the plans for the redevelopment. As you can see, this is proposing to redevelop the property with 1 single-story, 5,200 square foot veterinary office along with associated parking for 38 spaces. The plan is to remove one of the driveway accesses, the one to the north of the property, and then provide and maintain that kind of southern driveway access to the property. This would continue, it gets modified slightly, but it does continue to connect to the northern Scoop DeVille property to provide that shared access. And then that also allows for circulation around the entire building. In response to the township's feedback, your township engineer, your traffic engineer has reviewed this application. We did make some minor modifications to the current plan, and that's shown on tab 7, Exhibit A7. That A7 is the conditional use plan that was most recently revised on June 23rd, 2026. This plan really is substantially similar to the plan I just described. It has the same size office building, the same number of parking spaces. The modifications on this plan are: one, the dumpster pad location initially was proposed towards the south of the property, and it's been adjusted kind of towards the northeast corner of the property. This was done to bring that into compliance with zoning due to a setback because the neighboring property to the south is in a residential district. Then the second modification that was made on this plan is that there now is a kind of pedestrian walkway that connects from the building to the sidewalk that's along the street. And then the third modification is just, it's more clearly shown. There's notes as to where the proposed laterals for the water and sewer would be for this project. Again, we're here for conditional use, as you guys know, and the next process is land development. So this will be further worked out, the land development application, and everything will get resubmitted and reviewed if we're able to obtain an approval tonight. If you flip ahead to tab 9 and Exhibit A9, we did also include, we've put together a conditional use landscape plan. The first sheet of this exhibit is a more rendered plan to show that this is green. It shows that the improvements are really kept towards the front of the property where the existing improvements currently are. That maintains that kind of wooded area at the rear and then adds additional landscaping in accordance with the code. Both the kind of landscaping around the property, buffering kind of the parking area, and then the streetscape, so some street trees along the front. The owners are going to be obligated to go through, as I mentioned, the land development process. So this will get reviewed and, you know, potentially modified at that time if that is, you know, requested by the board. And then finally, if you flip to Exhibit A10, which is at tab 10, we did include renderings of the proposed new building. Again, it's going to be a single-story building. There's floor plans behind it, but this generally shows the feeling and character of what they're proposing here so that it will kind of nicely coordinate with the neighboring building. It also takes into account the ordinance has a series of architectural design requirements. So that provides for like the pitched roof, the kind of variation of windows to non-windowed area. That's all incorporated in this particular design here, so you get a feel. And now just giving you a better idea of what this veterinary's office is going to be before I get into the nitty-gritty of the ordinance requirements. Main Street Vet really is an existing local veterinary office. They currently do have 2 locations nearby. The owners, Frank DeMayo and Kim DeMayo, live in Limerick, and they wanted to open up a location here. Kim is the head vet at that practice, and it really is more of a traditional veterinary practice that serves pets, smaller animals, dogs, cats of that nature, not cows and horses. They provide general wellness care, diagnostic services, probably more minor outpatient surgery. They are not an emergency animal hospital. They're not one of these kind of urgent facilities that some of us have seen pop up in the area. This is a traditional kind of call, make your appointment with your traditional vet and go in and get your care. That doesn't mean that the vets don't care about the animals and may not respond to a small emergency, but this is not open overnight. This has regular hours during the day. And if there was kind of that level of an emergency, they would refer out to a real animal hospital. So as was mentioned by your solicitor, there is no boarding that's being proposed at this facility, not in terms of in connection with the care and not unrelated to the care. This is truly kind of a day business hour veterinary office being proposed. Their other offices have regular hours on Monday and Friday from 8 to 4 p.m., Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. It's likely they'll have similar hours here. It's possible they might be slightly shifted, but that gives you a sense of this kind of daytime business hour practice that they're proposing for this location. This location will also be staffed by 2 veterinary doctors and then 8 employees. And with that, turning to the kind of zoning aspects, this property is located in the R3 medium density zoning district and the Lewis Road conditional use overlay district, which provides further opportunity to use the property as a professional veterinary office, as the Lewis Road conditional use overlay allows for professional offices up to 20,000 square feet per structure by conditional use. The township zoning officer did confirm that a veterinary office would be a professional office and is permitted by conditional use. We've included that zoning verification at tab 8, exhibit A8. Section 184-228 is what provides the conditional use requirements for this use. It's what provides all of the kind of requirements for uses in this district. And this plan does comply with every applicable requirement. So subsection A requires it to be within the Lewis Road overlay, which it does. The tax parcel for this property is specifically listed in the code. The property does get served by central public water and sewer, and that would be the proposal going forward. As I mentioned, they revised the plan to provide for that kind of additional connection from the building directly to the sidewalk, and there's a sidewalk out front. Subsection C wants, if the board requires it, pedestrian and bicycle facilities to be provided within the lot or along the public rights of way. So what we're proposing here is that sidewalk in front and then the connection that goes to the building. Subsection D prohibits any parking lots from exceeding 1 double loaded parking aisle if it's between Lewis Road and the building. This proposal complies. There's no parking that's located between the building and the road at all. It's set to the side and to the rear. Subsection E requires a single unified plan for development when it's involved. I'm not going to read the whole thing when it involves multiple lots. This particular section, which your engineer confirmed, doesn't actually apply to this proposal here since we have 1 lot that we're redeveloping. Then plunking them together, subsection F and M are what requires the landscaping, that we provide landscaping in accordance with the SALDO, as well as the streetscape in accordance with the SALDO. We have presented that here. And again, this particular plan is going to need to go through land development. Some other conditional uses may not, but we are proposing landscaping and buffering in accordance with the requirements. Subsection H notes some screening that's not required. It's also about landscaping. It also does require that all of the streetscape improvements, so those street trees, would need to be installed before the certificate of occupancy is issued. There's some provisions for if that happened. A temporary certificate of occupancy could be provided in the middle of the winter, and then you could provide the trees in the springtime. If that was the case, the applicant is willing to comply with that provision in the code. Then subsection I is what sets forth the architectural design guidelines. So as we're showing here, the architect did take these into consideration and to make sure that we met all of those requirements. This plan proposes there's requisite kind of articulation at the vertical and horizontal. So it's not just a kind of flat box is the idea. This also requires a window to wall ratio. So there's all of the windows along all of the walls. So again, it's not just kind of a flat wall here. And the ordinance requires a pitched roof, which is proposed. And then there's requirements for certain or recommendations for siding. And so this meets that. They're proposing the kind of clapboard and stone. I'm not sure if it's going to be kind of a faux stone, but this is the sort of the character. The plan also is, just so you're aware, there is kind of a freestanding sign in front. There's no building kind of sign, but the freestanding sign that was used for the florist would just, the copy would just be swapped out with Main Street. That is the proposal here. And again, this style is really designed. Oh, I'm sorry, there is the Main Street that, but they will need to design that and finalize that to make sure that it complies with all zoning. The goal is not to come in and request any zoning relief here. They do intend to comply. And I do want to mention that because we are going through land development and then they'll have to get building permits, this may not be the exact precise architectural layout at the very end in the event that something needs to change during the land development phase or building permitting process. But this is the style and they intend to comply with the architectural requirements that are shown here. So it would have this feel, it would have this look, but if, one of the dimensions needed to change slightly, that's possible going forward, given where we're at in this phase. Then subsection J is inapplicable. It applies to age-qualified residential uses. Subsection K prohibits any structures that are greater than 20,000 square feet from being close to the road. This one, again, is a 5,200 square foot building that's being proposed. So we comply with that section. Then subsection L, which is what we've included at tab 11, exhibit A11, does require a traffic study, which was submitted and reviewed by the township's traffic engineer. This will again repeat and happen in more detail during the land development phase. But in brief, this traffic study found that the proposed development would produce approximately 19 trips during the weekday peak hour in the morning, I believe, and then the 18 trips during the weekday afternoon peak hour. And that based upon this, they recommended to have only one ingress and egress to the site. As I mentioned, there's two at the moment. To have the egress, so leaving the site, to be controlled by a stop, and to have ADA compliant pedestrian crossing be provided. And we are proposing that, and we'll work through that in the land development process. Also of note, this is a state street, so the applicant is going to be obligated to go through the highway occupancy permitting process with PennDOT. PennDOT will review this and will necessarily make their own requirements, restrictions, and potential design changes that they will need to go through going forward, and they will comply with everything PennDOT requires of them here. We do understand, I wanted to mention that the township's traffic engineer had suggested some restrictions to the driveway access to the site. The code does provide at subsection N the ability for the board to require along the Lewis Road corridor the shared access to limit the number of axes to that road. And that is fully understandable. The recommendation that was made by your traffic engineer was a right in and right out. The applicants aren't entirely opposed to that. They're open to it. Our request here is to defer this kind of restriction until there's more engineering done during the land development process and the HOP process. The PennDOT is really going to make requirements and restrictions that their suggestions may be somewhat different than what was made in response to our initial traffic impact study and this conditional use plan. So we are open to the restrictions potentially being necessary and understand them. We want to make sure that this is kind of their safe access and great circulation. The evaluation of the plan has been that it's feasible and will provide this going forward. But we are, optimistic that that type of condition could be deferred. And I guess lastly, I'm referring back to the landscaping plan with subsection M, which did reference the requirement to have streetscaping. Those are the street trees. So those are all the specific requirements for this type of use. This plan does demonstrate that it's proposing to comply with all of these kind of check off boxes. It also does comply with all other applicable criteria. It complies with the bulk area setbacks. As I mentioned, they did move the dumpster location towards the north on the property, and this is now all buffered out with plantings. The parking also is in excess of the ordinance requirements. With the 2 vets and 8 employees, the requirement is for 7 spaces per vet, and that would be 14 plus 1 space per employee. So that would be 22 spaces total that are required, and we're proposing 38 here. Again, they're only planning for 2 vets right now, but that would provide enough parking if a third vet potentially were to be added to this practice. As was mentioned, the Planning Commission did review this application and recommended to approve. This is really meant to be an improvement of the road, an improvement of the property, and to provide a really nice kind of service for the township. So we are optimistic that you guys will also agree and approve this application so that they can move forward to land development. As I mentioned, I have Glenn Kilczewski of Ersick and Associates, who's the civil engineer on the project here with me. I would ask that he be recognized as an expert based upon his credentials. Certainly, if you have any other questions of him, or you call him and ask a couple questions.
Glenn Kilczewski. Kelczewski. I do.
Glenn, did you just hear the offer of proof that I provided to the board?
Yes.
Was this a true and accurate description of the existing conditions on the property?
Yes.
Was this also a true and accurate description of the owner's plans for the property?
Yes.
And was this a true and accurate description of how the plans comply with the zoning ordinance?
Yes.
If I had asked you questions on these topics, would you have provided substantially similar answers?
Yes.
And would you be willing to adopt my testimony, my offer of proof as if it were your own?
Yes.
Now, I do have a couple more questions for you. In your professional opinion, will this proposal negatively impact the use of the neighboring properties or the character of the neighborhood?
No.
And in your professional opinion, does this plan provide adequate site design methods such as plant screening, tree preservation, setbacks to avoid significant negative impacts to neighboring uses?
Yes.
And in your professional opinion, will it be feasible for the applicant to further engineer and design this plan to provide the necessary stormwater management and utilities needed for the use?
Yes.
And in your professional opinion, will this use result in any significant hazard to the public health, safety, such as fire, toxic, or explosive hazards?
No.
And in your professional opinion, will this use substantially add to significant traffic safety hazard or significant traffic congestion?
No.
So I don't have further questions for this witness, and I realize you might. I did also want to let you know, I do have Frank and Ken DeMeo with me. They are the owners of the property, Main Street Vet. I do also have Nicole Klein from Bowman, who prepared the traffic impact study in case there were specific traffic questions. So I could call them if that was helpful.
Thank you very much. Moving to questions.
Yes, board question.
I have a question. Do you plan to do the acceleration lane compared to the property? I would believe right now, since it's classified as a low volume driveway, we wouldn't be anticipating providing an acceleration lane or a deceleration lane. Okay. I wanted to ask a question for our engineer. Doesn't PennDOT usually sometimes require that?
Yes, so the application is subject to PennDOT review. I believe the applicant, after this procedure, will be making a submission to PennDOT. PennDOT is going to make recommendations and give opportunities to the township to go ahead and chime in. In that case, the township traffic engineer will provide his feedback to the township board of supervisors, and then eventually will be shared with the applicant.
Okay, thanks for confirming that with me.
Thank you.
Do we have some other board comment or questions?
I have one for the owner. Are you anticipating only dogs and cats?
I just asked for completeness if they could be sworn in.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry, Cheryl.
Okay.
Kimberly DiMaio, DIMAIO. Yes. Hi. Are you anticipating only serving dogs and cats at this facility, or are you planning also small exotics?
Small exotics also. So we see guinea pigs, rats, snakes,
bearded dragons, all those wonderful, yes.
Furry and scaled friends.
Yeah.
Just wanted to, looking at the design, it looks like you have cat and dog room. So you don't have an exotic room at this point? Are you anticipating, are you planning?
We don't see a lot of exotics, 1 to 2 a week maybe, so we typically will just use one of the cat rooms or the smaller dog rooms for that.
Excellent. Thank you. Those are all my questions.
Any additional board questions? I do have a couple. So, do you intend to provide cremation services on the site now or in the
Not
future?
on site. No, we have a service that comes for that. And not in the future, no.
Gotcha. Okay. And I think this might be for the engineer. I'm just looking for someone to identify how they intend to use those access roads, because I'm seeing two. So is one really kind of an emergency, or is traffic going to be turning in and out of both of those?
Yeah, so currently both driveways, the one driveway on Scooptaville and the one driveway that remains on our property are currently proposed as two-way access. That's what they're currently proposed, but the one driveway on our property may end up being a right-in, right-out only driveway, which means if you wanted to make a left turn, you would have to come out the Scooptaville driveway if that happens in the future.
Okay, that's one of the things I wanted to confirm, that it was not this, I guess this is maybe for Mr. Platt. The Scooptaville shared driveway is not the one that you want right hand only out of. Okay, good. And because I would want to hear from Scooptaville if that were the case, if that were the only one there. And then do you anticipate any future waiver requests related to the access, parking, landscaping, or sidewalks or site circulation as the project proceeds through land development?
I think the only one that I'm aware of would probably be related or potentially be related to, without having read everything, the access and a restriction. If either you determined a restriction was important or PennDOT potentially also thought a restriction to the property was necessary, that this is a single lot and this would be the only driveway access to that lot. The other driveway really is on the Scooptaville property and it's the access for that. So I'm not sure if there, is a requirement that there be full movement access to every lot. That's sometimes a requirement and I'm not sure. But we would comply with all of the landscaping, stormwater management, sidewalk. There's no intent for a waiver from those types of provisions.
Okay, and I'm not familiar with veterinary practices from the business side, but just for movability of the driveway and the access, what is the largest type of truck or deliveries that you receive for supplies? I'm not sure if these are tractor trailers that are bringing in dog food and whatever, and I just want to make sure that that's covered in the traffic part of the safety of this.
Yeah, so most of the deliveries we get are a UPS truck,
Okay.
typical like UPS, Amazon.
Yeah, so not tractor trailers of dog foods coming in. Okay.
No, it's not that big.
I don't know enough about your business.
Yeah, no, we have typical box truck comes in.
Okay, yeah. And then the township engineer had noted about the dumpster, which I saw was moved. So do you know I don't know if either engineer can speak to that, the traffic, or Cal, Mr. Hassan, do you see that movement impeding? Because I guess the garbage truck needs to not need any of the additional parking space in order to maneuver to collect. Does that look like a good location for that?
I don't want to speak on behalf of Joe, but I also look at it, I don't think it's going to be an issue. And I can answer your other question. I confirmed with the township traffic engineer, the restriction to access will not cause a potential waiver in the future. So I just wanted to let you know.
That's all I had. Thank you.
I have another one. Okay. One more question. Thanks. Okay, on the the driveway with Scoop the Ville, I'm looking at the radius for the turn now. Do we discuss, and I guess that would be Joe, the radius of a turn, say if a fire apparatus to come in there? Because the front area looks like it would be tight for it to come in. The other might be the best, but I don't know if it would make that turn from the Scoop the Ville side.
So this application is actually only for the vet's property. This application doesn't actually include the Scoop to Bill property. That is an existing driveway to a neighbor that we don't have control over. They've been friendly and there is an easement and they are open to a modification to the connection that currently exists between the driveway access to our site and the driveway that connects into their driveway access. They're open and friendly about that, but they are not part of this redevelopment. So the existing driveway that serves Scoop to Bill wouldn't be modified in connection with this proposal.
I was just looking at that for, God forbid something does happen there, that structural firefighting, they could fight it from both sides. And I wanted to make sure the equipment could get in. I'm just playing ahead. I know we're not looking at something would happen, but
And this
I've been in fire service for
technically
30 years. I'm
isn't
just
for,
for a tactical thing. If something would
it's more a
happen.
land development issue.
If it's land development, okay. Just making sure we're thinking about it.
I'll open it up to public. Any public comment? Any question? I see none.
Do I have a motion to approve conditional use 26-02 422 North Lewis Road LLC? Subject to the following. Subject to the following that she will read.
So that in all other respects, the applicant will comply with all provisions of the statutes, laws, regulations, rules, codes, ordinances of the United States, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Limerick Township, and any other municipal entity that has jurisdiction over this project. Is that acceptable?
That is acceptable.
And the other is that the applicant will comply with all of the exhibits and testimony that was introduced at tonight's hearing.
That is completely acceptable. Thank you.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Any additional board comment?
I like your plan so much. It's going to be well received within Limerick. We're very excited. Thank you.
I just have a quick comment of thank you. Thank you for coming to Limerick and choosing us as your second site. It's an honor and it's a great use for that spot. So welcome.
Thank you very much.
Right. Couldn't say more. So, all right. So any resident comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
We're going to be moving into public hearing number 2 for ordinance number 438. And I am going to, again, since this is a public hearing, I will be turning over to our solicitor, Rebecca Geiser.
Thank you. As the chair said, this is an amendment to the zoning ordinance. Therefore, under the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code, it is a public hearing. Just like the conditional use, it was advertised twice, etc. But I have a number of exhibits that I will enter into the record. T1 is a copy of the proposed ordinance, and that was before the board originally in the beginning of June. T2 is proof of publication for the hearing. It ran in the Pottstown Merc, which is a locally circulated paper, pardon me, June 23rd and June 30th of 2026. T3 is an attestation that a full copy of the proposed ordinance was on file with the Montgomery County Law Library for viewing by the public. And it was there since June 26th of 2026. T4 is a copy of the review letter from the Montgomery County Planning Commission dated today, July 7th of 2026. And then for the record, because we don't have the minutes yet from our June Planning Commission meeting, this was reviewed at the June 11th, 2026 Limerick Township Planning Commission, and it was recommended for approval. So again, this is a zoning ordinance and it has been drafted by township staff. It is also referred to as the data center ordinance. So I would open it up if there are, Ms. Martin, who prepared the ordinance. I don't want to put her on the spot right now, but she is present. Obviously our engineering team reviewed it as well. There's a bag. I don't know if the applicant.
Thank you.
That's okay. So at this point, I would open it up for if there are board comments or questions on the ordinance. Otherwise, it's public's opportunity, public hearing, open it up for public comment.
So I just put a regular comment. I want to thank staff, consultants, and the Planning Commission on their work on this amendment to the data center ordinance. I also want to thank the residents who provided great ideas, thoughts, and important input to the ordinance. We are all here for Limerick to be a healthy, safe place for us to live. So thank you all.
For public comment on the ordinance, now's your opportunity. Please go up to the microphone if you could state your name for the record and that you're a Limerick resident. Spell it, you said?
My name is Kara Lehman, Karalehman, and I live on Steinmetz Road, and I'm grateful to the board and the planning committee for working on stronger data center ordinances, and I don't even know the time and energy that it takes, and I appreciate you all stepping into this responsibility. And I also need you to hear me clearly. These ordinances still aren't strong enough to protect the people who live here, including all of you. We all depend on the same pollinators, the same soil, the same water, the same wildlife. We need this place to flourish, as Cheryl said, not merely endure. And you have that obligation under the Constitution of Pennsylvania, Section 27, to conserve and maintain natural resources for the benefit of the people, not corporations. And the warning signs are already here. Across the country, communities are dealing with problems that came from ordinances that weren't strong enough. In Virginia, massive data centers have driven up electric rates. In Loudoun County, noise rules measured at the data center's property line failed completely. In Oregon, hundreds of diesel generators have created constant noise and increased air pollution. In Utah and Georgia, water systems have been pushed to their limits. And everywhere these hyperscale projects are built, trucks and equipment overwhelm local roads. We would be fools not to heed the damage other communities are warning us about. This draft ordinance is a step forward, but it still leaves us exposed to the exact problems other towns are struggling to fix. We need 20 megawatt limits. We need emission limits. We need real water use caps at 100,000 gallons per day. We need noise measured at homes, not at the developer's property line. And we need bonds and protections against the wear and tear of trucks. I'm asking you as a neighbor, as a farmer, as someone who loves this land, please keep strengthening this ordinance.
Thank you.
Martha Bell, Limerick resident. Martha Bell, Limerick resident. Thank you to the staff, again, to the staff and the Board of Supervisors and the Planning Commission who put a lot of work into trying to make an ordinance more protective, to separate ordinances more protective. your applicant tonight, who was extremely well prepared, brought packets of information, and was completely upfront with the project that they were proposing. And I would suggest to you that the next revised ordinance, which should be done within 4 to 6 months to protect this community, not deferred into next year, that you consider asking your applicants to actually make an application instead of all this, well, there might be a closed water component, there might be this, there might be that. There has to be a complete application on the table in order for the community and you guys to consider it. I would also suggest that you listen to your planning commission, who made some really good suggestions last time at the whatever meeting it was, June 11th. You need to please incorporate those into a more protective ordinance. Please pass the ordinance tonight. These ordinance, I just read Shamokin Township's ordinance. It is much more protective than ours. And one of my concerns is, the going thing now is please bring your own energy supply. Well, I'll remind the Board of Supervisors that 20 some years ago, this community shot down a natural gas power plant pretty much on the same area that it is now, that the data center is being proposed for. It was shot down. Now you're asking people to bring their own power. Where is the ordinance saying how you're going to regulate a power plant right next to the outlets of the nuclear power plant? Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Hello. Hi, I'm Tammy Rifto, HRIPTO, resident of Limerick, and I am asking for you to please pass the ordinances as they have been proposed. And like those have spoken before me, they are not near enough to protect us. I'm looking for safer, healthier, sustainable, whatever you can imagine. I also own a farm. My top priority is water, and there is no mistake at what's happening across the country with water. Have you been paying attention? They built a data center and stripped the communities. There's wells located in this property at one of the proposed sites, but there's no way to monitor or mitigate it. What's the drought contingency plan on paper? What are the bonds for the infrastructure to improve it for them that don't touch our money? We have letters that you are proposing in your ordinance to say, don't increase in perpetuity, don't increase the electrical rates for the community. Well, that's what Limerick nuclear plant said 20 years ago. That hasn't happened, so a letter means nothing. I also want to see limits on the water, 30-day averages from any source to 10,000 gallons, not 100,000 gallons. If it's a closed loop, they shouldn't need this, or find an alternative source. Is it solar ready? Why are we generating a heat island between 35 and 48 degrees Fahrenheit for a 6-mile radius and only giving a 500-foot party status to people when there's a 6-mile impact? These are documented studies at the University of Cambridge, and more recently out of another study that's just been published this month. I'm also asking for better enforcement. $500 fine for a multi-billion-dollar greedy company does nothing to stop them. And as the CEO, you should know, CEOs choose to run through rules because it's more cost-effective than playing by the rules.
Thank you for your time. Hi, I'm Christy Jambowski, Limerick resident. Christine. I'm losing time. DZIEMBOW. It's really long. I mean, to be fair. It's D as in dog, Z as in zebra, I-E, M as in Mary, B as in boy, O-W-S-K-I. I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you to the Planning Commission, to the board, to the staff for working on this and reopening, amending these ordinances. It's very appreciated by the community. We really appreciate the responsiveness and the listening and being reactive and responding to the community's wants to be more protective. I urge the board to please pass this so there's something in place that's more protective. But as many people said very well before me, it's not protective enough. The setbacks should be higher.
1,000 feet's not enough from schools and residences. There should be specifics about the types of generators that are used, the fuel that's being used for them. The noise wasn't lowered too much. There's minimal additions about water management and protection. The fines are only $500 a day for multi-billion-dollar companies. And the Planning Commission really did bring up a lot of great points and a very long list of things that they wanted to be added to these, and specifically said, we would like this in revised ordinances. And they specifically in that meeting on July 11th, wanted to say that they wanted to recommend this be sent to you all with the specific note that it be amended within the next 4 months as soon as possible. So I'm very grateful for the progress on this, but I respectfully ask that you please pass this tonight and bring it on the agenda as soon as possible to reopen these ordinances and start the process again. This cannot wait. It can't wait. It's what the community wants. I am very grateful, and I hope that you stay on this track of being responsive and meeting the needs of the community for these protections. So thank you.
Thank you for your comment. I'm Megan Smolsky, MEAGANSMOLSKY. I want to really echo what everyone else has said, so thank you for considering an update. I actually have a question. I'm hoping if somebody can just kind of explain why the first sentence, well, not the first sentence, but kind of the first section specifies the intersection of Lightcap and Sands River Road. Would this ordinance not apply to other areas should another data center come?
Greta, do you want to take it or? And again, we can pause it. Yeah, thank you. By way of background, this ordinance will not apply to the 2 existing applications that are already in. Just want to make that clear.
Yeah.
Sure, yes.
Greta Martin, Washington.
I do. So to clarify, in the LLI district, currently in order to have a proposed use of a data center, the ordinance requires that the tract be at least 3/4 of a mile from the physical intersection of Evergreen Road and Lightcap Road. We did that originally to designate the area. Glenn, do you happen to have that map that we had up earlier at all? We intended to designate the area of the LLI district that was across the street from the mall, all the way down to the property that's owned by the power plant, then bound by Evergreen Road, and then to whatever extent a tract would be developed. This ordinance updates that to say, in no case shall any portion of the tract be located further than 1 mile from that same location. Meaning that LLI district, it starts up at the mall, but then it drops all the way down to the river. And we didn't want somebody to come along and collect a series of properties that are all contiguous and allow for the data center area to be extended further than the original area that was intended. So this is a clarification.
Okay, so if a third developer comes in and is looking at property on the other side of Limerick, they could not build a data center there with this updated ordinance?
If it's in the LLI district, it's only permitted in that area.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And I also, again, just really echoing what everyone else has said, I really just want to urge the board to approve the existing, or sorry, this update that we're talking about while simultaneously consulting public health and environmental experts, really digging deeper into additional ways to protect and preserve Limerick and its residents. Thank you. Thank you for your comment.
And my name is Andrew Piasecki, Piasecki. I live right next to the current proposed site. I'm most concerned about my family's health and safety. There's going to be tons of pollution, tons of noise, and I'm against that. It looks like ordinance number 428 that was signed in June June 18th, 2024, the maximum daytime decibels were 65, nighttime were 50. This current proposal has 67 decibels. That's a 2 decibel increase, and 57 decibels, which is a 7 decibel increase for the nighttime. So I think we went in the wrong direction for that, just in a matter of 2 years. What else? Yeah, you just mentioned the part where it has to be within a mile of the site, or like 3/4 of a mile. I'd like to make sure that it's limited to being 3/4 of a mile of the site instead of 1 mile. And then also for electrical rates, there's something about including a letter. I just want to make sure that Limerick Township has the authority to, control electricity rates. I just don't want the zoning ordinance to get nixed somewhere down the road. So I'm not like an attorney, so I have no idea, but it seems like it might be an overreach. But I like the idea of it for sure. So anyway, I appreciate your time and thank you.
Thank you very much for your comment.
Hello, my name is Stephanie Schlegel, 320 Laurel Drive. Stephanie Schlegel, 320 Laurel Drive. Oh, I'm sorry, Schlegel, SCHLEGEL. Thank you. And I do want to say thank you for considering the additional restrictions for the update of the ordinance. I do think that those are needed, but I do think we need to take it additional steps further. One of the concerns I have is that it, as noted in the mercury rates, leaning heavily into Loudoun County's items that they have set up, that is considered data center alley where over 200 data centers already exist. So we should be looking at other areas that have higher restrictions for cleaner water, cleaner air than an area that's already oversaturated with data centers and getting a back end deal out of them. Additionally, I would like to note that the 2 submitted data centers right now aren't going to be really considered in these additional updates that we're doing. So there should be additional attempts to help rail them in. Looking at the curative amendment would be also beneficial for the Board of Supervisors, which is 609.2 of the MPC. So you can declare that the current zoning ordinance is substantially invalid and deficient to hopefully trigger a 180-day freeze where any additional developer lawsuits can challenge the code. They would not be able to or submit additional applications, and giving a pending ordinance doctrine to make sure that is listed as pending and not have additional abilities to submit more things. I would also recommend demanding a special resolution that you put in for declaration of the amendments, as well as conditional use status as being mandatory, no by right use anywhere in the township, forcing them to go through that multi-stage process. Additionally, the 1,500 foot setback would be a better idea than the proposed shorter setback that you're trying to lean into for legal purposes, because it doesn't actually consider the actual impact, whether or not they can actually then fit in there. Also, making sure it's 100% closed loop. And then additionally, on-site emergency infrastructure should be funded fully by the center.
Thank you for your comment.
Hi, my name is Brad Lingenfelter, Lingenfelter. I live at 320 Laurel Drive. I am the Global Threat Intelligence Manager for a Fortune 10 company. I report directly into our business continuity group and legal. I am 3 steps removed from our C-level. Believe me when I say that I understand the looming threat of legal litigation when it comes to developing these types of plans for your township. However, I agree with most of the residents here tonight and that can't be here tonight, that these do not go far enough to protect the current residents of Limerick Township and future residents. There are a couple of specifics that your new regulations do not address, and I would highly suggest that while you focus on passing these to prevent any future data centers, you focus on amending them when it comes time to better protect the township As it's been said before, zero potable water use. Make sure that there is a mandate for a closed loop dry cooling system on site. Utility moratorium and studies require comprehensive feasible studies and electrical grid impact studies at the developer's expense. Require stricter standbacks. I know we have a proposal for approximately 1,000 foot and a 750 foot proposal for the setbacks, but I would very strongly urge you to increase that. Dual weight acoustic standards for both A weighting for fan noise and C weighting for low frequency vibrations from the heavy generator usage. Operational limits to cap the decibel limits. Again, it's been stated that we moved in the wrong direction for decibel limits. These should be limited down further from where they currently stand. Thermal impact mitigation studies that evaluate and neutralize the heat island and exhaust plume effects from massive cooling units that are proposed on the site. And this, excuse me, and decommissioning and developer agreements set by the township with decommissioning bonds and draft enforceable language that will be overturned before data center plans. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Can you go up and state your name like everybody else, please? Thank you. And again, you'll have to spell your name so our court reporter Paula.
Sure. My name is Larry Schenk, SCHENK. I am not a Limerick resident, and my question is, would you be willing to hear a statement from a non-Limerick resident who is impacted because I have a property adjacent to the township?
I'm sorry, we will not be. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
There's more public.
Hi, Terry Arthur, a Limerick resident. So I just want to say thank you. I know I was at the Planning Commission. Greta, I know you and your team have done a great job. I encourage for you to continue this. I know there was a request of that by those commissions, as previous residents have stated, to try to get this looked at, to get stronger protections within a time frame of around September, October, and it was overruled as it's budget season, it's too busy, staff can't be given. I think this is really important. Budgets are important, but let's face it, budgets aren't going to mean anything if there's a major problem here with your residents. So I just want to say to you, thank you, appreciate it. I still think there's more work that needs to be done. We just need to keep tightening it up, keep making it a little bit harder. I know it's impossible to say no, but you can make it difficult. And for the question about why specific for that light, because if you look at the zoning, that's the only place that whole track. I do have one quick question in my less than 50 seconds. Does this protect us from this current application doing future phases? So I know right now we have
I'm not going to direct anything towards the pending applications. They're conditional use hearings, and I would ask our staff not to discuss the pending applications. Again, we don't want to jeopardize a deemed use or give anybody an unfair or fair.
So you're not saying yes and you're not saying no, you're just opting to say
no comment. We can't.
Comment.
Correct. All I can tell you is that it's not affecting the pending applications.
Okay, but can that be amended for future phases? Or is that application
I'm not going to discuss.
Got it. Thank you.
Joanne Konchak, Konschak, Limerick resident. I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who worked on the amendment changes, or the current changes, amending the ordinance and all the consideration. And I do agree with everyone that it does need stronger, more amendments. I'd also just like to say that since we do not have a full house here, would the board please consider allowing people who live outside Limerick Township to speak briefly here tonight, because
as it was mentioned earlier, there are more people affected than just 500 feet, and it is important.
I would suggest you go to your representatives, your township, whether it's council or your elected officials. They can certainly communicate with these elected officials. They can also send their solicitor to take a position. Boroughs and townships have the opportunity to influence others. They can attend conditional use hearings. They can attend meetings as well.
Okay, thanks. We were just allowed to, I went to the other township meetings and we were allowed to speak, and I just thought it would be an option. And it was very helpful.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
Are there any other public comment? Seeing none.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve ordinance 438, approving the amendments of the zoning ordinance, chapter 184.
Motion approved with 38.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any additional board comment? Seeing that.
I did have one, but I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say. Just wanted to say that this is a work in progress and we are continuing to work on additions. So.
And do we have any additional resident comment? Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Moving on, then we have an adoption of an additional ordinance. And again, I'm turning this over to our solicitor, Rebecca Geiser.
Yes, this is actually not a public hearing.
You want Paula to take it?
No, we don't need Paula. Paula is free to go. I was still going to handle the ordinance, but you're free to go, Paula. As I'll tell the audience, this is what's called a standalone ordinance. It's not part of subdivision and land development. It's not a zoning ordinance, meaning under the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code, it does not require a public hearing with a stenographer. It does not need to be advertised twice like the last one did. It does still have requirements. So this would be ordinance 439 and a proposed amendment to chapter 170, vehicles and traffic. And it was drafted in conjunction with TPD, our traffic engineer. It was reviewed by the board earlier, actually last month. So again, I would introduce into the minutes this time, T1, a true and correct copy of the proposed ordinance. T2 is proof that notice for the ordinance was published by the Pottstown MERP on June the 30th of 2026. So with that, I would open it up to if there's board comment on ordinance 439.
Joe, do you want to come up and just give a brief? Is that yours or is that Greg's?
It's a Joe Platt.
It's Joe Platt.
All right, Joe.
And volunteer you.
Yeah, so this is the street vehicle and traffic code. So it covers the stop signs, the turn restrictions, the one-way streets. We keep a running list, and when we have a couple of them, we bring it back to the board. This allows the police to enforce certain traffic restrictions. As part of this, there are 3 of them. One of them is the removal of a turn restriction. So down at Station Avenue at Main Street, a couple of years ago, we restricted left turns because there was some issues with trucks hitting a culvert there. Subsequent to that, we had PennDOT widen Station Avenue as it relates to the culvert that's being replaced down there. So by widening the road, we can remove that turning restriction. And it also allows those trucks to leave Bengal Paper and those facilities down there and head out to Chestertown instead of Trinity Road where the road is closed today. So that's the one. We had a request from a resident to look into engine brake retarders along Knifer Road. That is a PennDOT road, so we forwarded that request to PennDOT. PennDOT came back with their findings that would, in fact, restrict those engine brake, subject to passing this ordinance and posting signs. So once this is adopted, we'll work with Bill Bradford to get the signs posted, and then that'll become part of that ordinance. And then there's a couple of no parking locations. The first one over at Buttonwood, we are seeing a lot of residents bring their children to the intersection of Buttonwood and Limerick Center Road. And that's a very tight intersection, and people are parking right at the intersection. And so it was really restricting in and out, especially in the mornings when there was less traffic there. So we restricted it back just that one block so that they don't park between Baywood and Limerick Center Road. The other one is South Limerick Road over by the new WB Homes, the Ironwood site, restricting parking along Limerick Center Road between basically that property frontage. So those are the changes in this one.
Joe, question.
Yes.
Do you know why PennDOT didn't consider, or did they consider the brake retarder from Game Farm all the way down? Because it's not just between that stretch of Swamp Pike to Ridge where, they're coming down, they can come down that hill pretty fast from Game Farm over to that intersection at Swamp right there by Blessed Trez. So did they consider that at all, extending that?
I don't know specifically their findings and why they didn't approve that. I can say that when you have vertical geometry downhills, that's where you want to use those retarders. So it probably has something to do with that, where between Ridge and Swamp, it's relatively flat.
I know a couple of residents right along there, one of them being on our Parks and Rec committee, and I know she would kind of upset hearing the big sound of the retarders going on.
Yeah, the original request was from Ridge to Game Farm. They came back and said you can restrict it from Ridge to Sun or to Swamp.
We have any other board questions or comments for Mr. Platt?
Thanks, Joe. Okay. Okay, we have a motion to approve ordinance 439, approving the amendment to the Vehicles and Traffic Ordinance, Chapter 170. I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. Do I have any additional board comment? Do I have any resident comment? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye. As part of the board's commitment to helping residents better understand how local government works, we have launched a series of brief monthly educational presentations on operations, services, and various aspects of Limerick local government. For Series 1 of Schoolhouse Limrock, a series of how Limerick Township works, we will kick off with our comprehensive plan. So I would welcome Greta Washington back to the floor.
Good evening. Thank you. I'm going to do my best to be brief, but the more I dived into the comprehensive plan, the more I got interested in the historical development in Limerick. And so I started with Limerick Township, was named after the hometown of early settler William Edmonds, who arrived in 1696 from Limerick, Ireland. At 22 square miles, it is the second largest municipality in Montgomery County. And as of 2025 census, the population estimate is 21,436 persons. We are 15th largest in population in the county. We are centrally located between Philadelphia and Reading, and also between Pottstown and Norristown. And I say that because when you look at the history of Limerick, you keep seeing those two words pop up. What I'm going to be talking about is a brief history, a recital of firsts of developments in Limerick. We're going to look at also the first recorded set of meeting minutes from January 2nd, 1939, what the Board of Supervisors looked like then at reorg. We're going to look a little bit at the first comprehensive plan that was done as a regional study in 1972. And then we're also going to talk about what we got accomplished in the 2009 comprehensive plan and official map. This is not intended to be a comprehensive history of Limerick, but it's intended to pique your curiosity about historical developments in the township, about how far we've come, and how to set the stage to develop a plan to meet the challenges of the future. And we're doing this right before you do your interviews next Monday. Before I go any further, I'd like to make just a couple recognitions. A lot of my content was pulled from the 1970, historical content was pulled from the 1972 Limerick's comprehensive plan. Early photos and timelines are the gracious courtesy of the Limerick Township Historical Society. Ali Sessick and Martin Witt did a lot of work on behalf of this presentation, and I want to thank them. Thank you to my staff, Brianna, Emily, and Kate, for their work in putting this presentation together. And thank you to Dan Kerr for allowing me the opportunity to work with you on this comprehensive plan. Real quick, if I had nothing else to say, I would tell you that the duties of the township historically were established to maintain roads. But by the 1950s, it included police, codes, and utilities. By the 80s, recreation and open space came online, as well as the establishment of the sewer authority. As of 2008 amendment to the second-class township code, townships are also responsible for ensuring fire and emergency medical services are provided. So in a nutshell, those are the duties of the board. That's the duties of what is required of a second-class township. And those are the elements that you would be looking at in a comprehensive plan. So just briefly, the first 100 years. Townships in Pennsylvania were established in the 17th century prior to the American Revolution. The province of Pennsylvania, or the Pennsylvania colony, was founded by William Penn, who received through a 1681 grant from Charles II of England. He received land. In October of 1682, 1 year later, his son, William Penn, brought 360 settlers to the area for the purpose of religious freedom. Philadelphia County was created in 1682, which was the head colonial area where administration was conducted. Just want to look at this map is showing various purchases from the Indians. And what you're going to see real quickly is the land that William Penn had is literally anything that's under this line, as well as some of New Jersey and some of Maryland. The boundaries of Limerick Township were entered into the March session of 1726 of the Court of Philadelphia, the province of Pennsylvania. The first settlers were equally Welsh, English, and German. Montgomery County didn't happen until another 50 years later. It separated from Philadelphia County September 10th, 1784. And just to keep in mind, 3 years after that, December 12th, 1787, Pennsylvania was the second state to join the Union. So prior to most of the 1700s, Pennsylvania had started with the corner. And by the time we became part of the new United States, we were the bounds that you see now. Royersford Borough was included in Limerick Township until 1879. So the early maps all show Royersford as part of Limerick. The early 17 and 1800s farming was the industry. We did not have the streams sizable to support mills like other townships in the area. The Perkiomen and the Swamp Creek, a lot of mills crept up along those creeks and created the industry for the area. What we lacked in streams, though, we made up for in ridges, which were needed to support transit routes to get agricultural products and natural resources and manufactured goods to market. Early transportation included highways, canals, railroads, and trolleys. I guess go to the next slide real quick. That is Pennsylvania in 1791. And Montgomery County does exist at that point in time. Excepting for travel by boat on the Schuylkill River, highways were the first significant form of transportation development. Built to carry produce to market, they were generally a result of farmers petitioning the courts for the construction of a highway. Probably the first such occurrence was the establishment of Ridge Pike. In 1709, a petition was made and the court ordered the building of the Reading Road through Limerick, which would connect Reading to Philadelphia. What we now connect Reading to Philadelphia is our current US Route 422, not Ridge Pike. The second most important road was constructed with Swamp Pike, and by a petition of New Hanover residents in 1723 to connect them to also Philadelphia. And just go to the next slide. This is an early map, 1877, but Ridge Pike runs through the center and Swamp Pike runs straight up, right there to connect to Ridge. And if you would go to the next slide, what you see here is a record of a court petition to build a road. This is from the Historical Society, and we believe it comes from Montgomery County, because the first entry of the record is June 6, 1788, which was a record that proposed the new road to be established from what appears to be, I'm just going to read it right at the top right here. The appointment of viewers to open a public road in Limerick, beginning at a road leading from Parker's Ford and ending in Trapp, and to connect to the Monotony Road. And if you want to go to the next slide, I don't know where that road was, but I do know that the road connecting Parker Ford to Linfield Trapp is our current Linfield Trapp Road, our current Linfield Road. The old portion of Parker Ford Road has been abandoned. And what's important to note here is roads were built without maintenance plans, and by the early 1800s, many of them were impassable, and they were turned over to turnpike companies to manage. And we're just going to stay on that slide for a minute. When you hit 1800, we now have in Limerick Township population of 1,000 people. Canals were the next major development. The Schuylkill Canal navigation system along the Schuylkill River was incorporated in 1815 and completed in 1824. The purpose of the 108-mile Schuylkill Canal was to provide a system of transportation, a system for transporting coal, iron, and lumber and merchandise between Schuylkill County and the city of Philadelphia. And on this map, you're going to see the old canal route on the west side of the river. Portions of the canals are still used today for recreation and historical significance. Canals were obsolete by the 1870s. Reading Railroad was started in 1833. To connect Reading to Philadelphia was fully done by 1842. Limerick had two stations, one in Linfield and the other one in Royersford, which became significant in the factor in boosting the prosperity of the township. That rail line is still there. And it still operates. The next one I'm going to talk about, okay, so Glenn, let's just go to the next slide. That's the Linfield station. And also we have a better one over there on the wall. It's fun. And then the next one I'm going to talk about is trolleys. And just an interesting thing about trolleys, it was popular in the early 1900s. Several companies owned trolley lines in the township. You want to go to the next slide, Glenn. The Schuylkill Valley Traction Company had a line along Ridge Pike to connect Pottstown to Norristown. That's in blue. And the Pottstown, Phoenix, and Phoenixville Railway Company ran a line from Schuylkill Valley Traction Company in Saratoga down to Linfield. Many other trolley lines were proposed to connect to other villages, but due to controversy of the intrusion into rural and peaceful township, they were not built. Trolleys became obsolete by 1936 because of bicycles, automobiles, and trains. The trolleys, even though they don't exist anymore, I thought it was an interesting study because it's a concept of plan versus people. There was a plan to put trolleys in. There was a plan to connect even more villages, but the people didn't want it. So something to think about is even when you put a master plan in place, there's going to be elements that may not happen because you'll find out that maybe it's something that the people don't want. The other thing that was interesting about the trolley concept is if you were in 1910 and you were in this debate of trolley versus no trolley, some advancements of technology render issues obsolete, and the trolley is one of those. So the trolley only existed for less than 35 years, but at the time, it was reported as a controversy. So two things. One is planning. In some cases, planning efforts get paperwork put together, but they don't get built. And secondly, sometimes you're planning for a technology that doesn't last very long in the grand scheme of things. So Glenn, let's see what we have on the next slide. That's the trolley tracks going on Ridge Pike in the village of Limerick. And Glenn, let's go to the next one. And that's just one of the trolleys. Where transportation happens, villages are built. And when we're looking at the old 1877 map, what you're going to see is three major villages in Limerick. The village of Limerick is in the center, used to be called Limerick Square. In 1758, an inn was opened in the village of Limerick, and the village grew around it. By the 1800s, it had a post office, a hotel, several stores, manufacturing establishments, and 28 houses. Right up from Limerick on Swamp Pike is Fruitville. That's the other large village that you see. It's a small hamlet, 1.5 miles west on Swamp Pike. And then the other major village that we still have, minus Royerford, you also see down here, was called Limerick Station. It's now termed as Linfield. By 1884, it contained a post office, a hotel, several stores, numerous manufacturing establishments, 50 houses. Linfield itself attempted to incorporate in 1884 and again in 1929, both without success. And taking these villages, let's go to the next slide. This is our current zoning map. And what I want to talk about is we do have a yellow color here. That's the village commercial district. You're going to see we have village commercial in Linfield as a zoning district. We have a healthy village commercial section over here in Limerick Village. We also have a small little village commercial piece up here, which is the old Fruitville. And I'm telling you this because if you want to look at some of these designations, which are on our current zoning map, such as this little village commercial section up here, it encompasses 2 properties. But if you actually drive through that area, you're going to see a whole bunch of village houses, maybe 8 or 10, that surround those 2 commercial properties. And if you're looking at a comprehensive plan, if you're looking at interest in preserving some of these historic villages, you may want to consider putting a village residential district around that village commercial district, which allows those houses on the lots that were created years ago to be existing in a way that allows them to be conforming. Right now, they're embedded in the middle of the rural north end, which is our R1 district, which requires a 2-acre minimum lot. So those little houses are not going to have your lot size needed for whatever you want to do on that property. So that's just something I'm bringing to your attention when you're looking at the history and you're looking at the future. What do you want to make and what do you want to take concern or call important to consider? Moving on to the third 100 years, 1900, our population is now 2,500 residents. It's 2.5 times larger than the 1800s. And that's probably because of the railroad. 1913, Limerick Fire Company was chartered. In the 1920s, the fire and panic legislation was passed in the state of Pennsylvania. In 1927, Limerick Fire Company was chartered. And it wasn't until 1933 that the second-class township code was adopted by the Pennsylvania General Assembly. These are the rules and regulations used to operate a second-class township. Open space was not a big topic. It was noted that there were 3 large tracts of open space. 2 of them were golf courses, and the third one was Eastern State Game Farms, which was established in the northern section of the township in 1929. Agriculture was still the prominent industry for the first half of the 1900s. January 2nd, 1939 is the first recorded set of board minutes. I guess that's the next slide, please. And I'm just going to read it to you. And I just keep in mind, 1940 population was 2,700. There were 3 board of supervisors at the time, Raymond G. Sheffley, William Gogler, and Charles Mogul. The minutes of the previous meeting were read and offered. There being no more further business, the meeting was adjourned. So what I don't know is, we don't have record of when the last meeting was held. So this is our first written record of meeting minutes in the township. And then they have the reorganization meeting. For reorganization in 1939, Charles Mogul was chosen to be temporary secretary for the meeting. Raymond Sheffley was nominated and elected chairman. Charles Mogul was chosen as secretary treasurer. Morris Gerber, solicitor. The following wage scale was adopted for 1939. Laborer, 40 cents an hour. Equipment operator, 60 cents an hour. Skilled laborer, 60 cents an hour. 2 team horses, $1.10. Roadmaster, 75 cents an hour, subject to the approval of the auditors. So they established their fee schedule. And they elected themselves chair and secretary treasurer. They resolved that each supervisor would act as a road master of his or her respective districts, and making up the budget was discussed. The secretary was instructed to write the highway department. I believe that's the state of Pennsylvania Highway Department, asking for permission to withhold of making up the budget until the legislature for 1939 settled the Furman Act. And just for the record, the 1939 Furman Act was an amendment to a previous act which allowed unexpended motor license funds to be apportioned directly to second-class townships on a mileage basis to be spent directly on local township roads. Meeting was adjourned. So what we know in 1939 is Board of Supervisors were essentially tasked with maintaining the roads. And by that time, and I don't know when the road maintenance came into being, but by 1939, our job was to maintain the roads that had previously been built. Okay, moving on. So the first ordinance that was adopted by the board was 1952. It was the fire hydrant installation. And on that list, you're also going to see in 1959 by Ordinance 15, the Limerick Township Planning Commission was created, consisting of 5 members, each serving 4-year terms, with 1 member being appointed or reappointed each year. In 1960, the population doubled just after 20 years to 5,100. Remember, in 1940, it was just about 2,500 or so. 1961, we see our first zoning ordinance, zoning hearing board, and zoning officer. And let's look at that first zoning map. Go to the next slide. The interesting thing about this zoning map, it's our first zoning map from 1961, but you're going to see the village of, okay, let's just talk about this dark area here is B20 Neighborhood Commercial District, which is equivalent to our village commercial district. They had it designated in Fruitville. They had it designated at the intersection of Swamp Pike and Knifer Road. They had it designated in the village of Knifer, as well as other intersections in the township, including down in Linfield. Interestingly, they did not have it in Limerick Village on Ridge Pike, but they did have a regional commercial district there, rather than neighborhood commercial district. The other thing that's interesting to note is they put a regional commercial district 500 feet or 600 feet off the center line of Ridge Pike, being that area which was designated for commercial. That's very similar to our current Main Street district, which runs 300 feet off the center line of Ridge Pike, along the entire pike, except inside the village. So sometimes these old zoning maps do give you historical context of what was considered important years ago. The next first, 1963, the first office employee was hired. Her name was Barbara Bowman, and she was designated secretary treasurer. She was part-time, and she had to keep her records in mobile files because the meetings were held at the Limerick Firehouse. In 1963, Glenn, give me the next slide, please. In 1963, somebody commissioned a sewer map of the entire township. It's hard to see, but the original map is at the Historical Society, and it's amazing. It's huge. It's an old blueprint, but it maps every single road, and it has arrows on every single road that if there were sewer line installed, which way the sewer line would run. Every single road in the entire township was mapped with a proposed sewer line. And I'm going to just stop here for a minute and talk a little bit about sewer. Fast forward 25 years, when our first sewer plant and sewer system came online in 1988, there was a land use plan from 1988 that designated a goal to restrict public sewer to the growth areas. So basically, you're looking at sewer. And the other thing I want to talk about this is, even though we sold the sewer plant in 2018 to a private company, we still control the boundary of where public sewer goes. That's called the Act 537 plan. So if you want to move to the next map, Glenn, this is Limerick Township sewer map. Everything in color is a service area to a pump station. And what you're gonna see is all the white on the north end is outside the sewer service area. So if you want to control growth, or it's as a tool to control growth, if somebody comes in way up here, that's not reasonable, but if they're way at the top end and say, I want to tie to public sewer so that they can get a higher density for housing, you as a board have a right to say that's not in our growth plan. That is not our growth area. That's not where we want to promote high density development. So you as a board do have the ability to control the 537 plan, that line of public sewer service. And that's something you want to think about as you're moving forward in putting the next comprehensive plan together, is what are the growth areas and what are the preservation areas in the township. So now I'm going to jump back into 1965. Following a petition from the residents, the Board of Supervisors appointed a number of part-time officers and the Limerick Township Police Department was created. 1966, Ordinance 32 created the Limerick Township Municipal Authority to establish and administer a public sewer system and other utilities should they need. It was 5 members were appointed by the Board of Supervisors for a 5-year term, with 1 person appointed or reappointed each year. And then we come to 1969, where the municipalities planning code was adopted by the General Assembly of Pennsylvania, took effect. And this is the code that sort of gives guidelines to all the municipalities in Pennsylvania of consistent rules of procedure for plan development. So it talks about all of our rules and process. So when you have a zoning hearing board application, it says that you need to process that in 60 days, or the applicant has to file an extension. Once you render a decision, once the hearing is closed, you have to render a decision in 45 days. That is all code that comes out of the municipality's planning code. That said, we had put a lot of planning in place prior to. You want to take a little break? So keep going. I'll do whatever. Keep going. Okay, very good. Okay. The other thing I have in front of you that is not on the slides, but it's on your handouts, is a 1977 budget. And I thought it was interesting because it's just a snapshot in time of 50 years ago. This fall, you're going to be putting together the 2027 budget, which is 50 years from this 1977 budget. This budget was printed in the Mercury, and it reported that the population was 5,500, and there were 48 miles of road, which is roughly half of what we have today. Of the employees, there were police, 3 full-time, 3 part-time, a building inspector, a secretary, and a treasurer who was part-time. The 1977 general fund was $355,000. The budget for roads, excluding liquid fuels, was $125,000. Budget for parks and recreation was $2,100, and the budget for fire companies was $12,000. What you see in this handout is a presentation of not only Limerick's budget, but a lot of the other municipalities in the area. And as you're going through the planning process, the one thing you want to keep in mind is you look up and you look down. You look to your neighbors. If there is things they're doing that you want to do, you're going to call your neighbor and you're going to ask them. Planning is, if somebody has something that works, you want to know what it is and you want to mimic that which works. So I only put that there just as an idea of like what the region looked like in 1977, which was 50 years ago, so that it gives you the ability to ask questions. You can see in there that we are rural in comparison to a lot of the municipalities that are there, and our taxes are much lower than a lot of the municipalities that were there, but we were slower on building out. But just for going into the comprehensive plan also, the one thing you're looking at is what do you want and how do you want to make it happen? And if somebody else has already done that, you want to call them up and you want to say, how did you do it? Moving forward to 1983, Limerick Township, with the aid of the Lions Club and other volunteers, constructed a softball diamond behind the municipal building. This, I believe, is the first active recreation area that the township undertook. And a year later, in 1984, They commissioned a 7-member recreation committee appointed by the board, each serving a 7-year term with 1 member appointed each year. Also in 1984, the last link of Route 422 was built. In 86, the township printed and mailed its first newsletter. In 86 to 88, the construction of the sewer plant began. The one thing that I do want to talk about is, let's go to the next slide, the 1972 comprehensive plan. I gave you a brochure that was prepared by our planning commission in 1971. The planning commission, I believe, was part of one of the steering committees for this comprehensive plan. It's an entire booklet of objectives of the township, and it was a plan. I gotta get my notes. It was prepared by the Lower Perkiomen Area Planning Council. It included Collegeville Borough, Limerick Township, Lower Frederick Township, Lower Providence Township, Schwenksville Borough, Skippack Township, Trapp Borough, and Upper Providence. Limerick Township Planning Commission was clearly involved. Based on their meeting minutes from October 1971, they had talked about the cost of putting that brochure together so that they could advertise their plan. This is the larger comprehensive plan. That map is inside the brochure. What I want to show you is they had a couple regional routes mapped on this plan that did not exist, that being one of them, starting up at Sanatoga and running very consistently where our current Route 422 is. So in 1972, that was a planned road. They also had a planned road to the north that runs along Greaterford Road in Limerick Township and down through the region. On this map, Limerick Township is in this upper corner here with Royersford Borough being down there. So these two planned roads are right here. So these planned roads ended up on a 1972 comp plan, and Route 422 finished getting built in 1984. So you're looking at 12 years from when the plan came. Comprehensive plans are the master plans that put the ideas in place, that put the infrastructure in place. So it's not something you're going to put together and tomorrow it's going to poof happen. But two, there's a couple things that happen here. When you're looking at planned roads, you're going to look at multiple ways to get from point A to point B. In case one of them doesn't work, you can use the alternate route. So your master plans are going to look at a goal and then look at multiple ways to achieve the goal with the idea that one of those ways could achieve that goal. At that time, that 1972 plan had utility recommendations for sewer and water authorities to be created, zoning and subdivision ordinances to make up the requirements for water supply, sanitary sewer, stormwater systems, refuse disposal. So what you're seeing from this 1972 plan is all of the ordinances that we have in place now, all the things we see in land development. Where's the water? Where's the sewer? How's your stormwater? What's that look like? All was in the plan from 1972 that updated our ordinances. And now I'm not going to go through all of the planning that was done in Limerick since then, because once the first plan was started, all of that brochure is like the 5 things that every comprehensive plan looks at. It's a nice succinct summary. You're going to look at housing and say, what do I want for housing, or what do we want to see housing do? But you're still going to have a review of housing, for example, as one of the features. The 2009 comprehensive plan, we adopted, let's go to the next slide. We adopted official map in 2011, which was an objective of that plan. We adopted a greenways and trails plan in 2013. That plan had every objective from how do you connect neighborhoods to schools and to pizza shops, to how do you connect the Perkiomen Trail to the Schuylkill River Trail. Every permutation of possible trail routes for connectivity. And also the comprehensive plan recommended that plans be prepared for development of township-owned properties. In late 2015, 2018, we prepared plans for the Schuylkill River Park Master Plan, Carrillo Preserve Master Site Plan, Limerick Community Park Master Plan. With the master plans in place, that allows you to get grant money and allows you to work with private-public partnerships. In 2021, we updated our Act 209 plan. This is how you upgrade community facilities to support increased volume of traffic due to development. In 2022, we adopted a comprehensive open space plan. And that is the other end of sewer. Is if you're promoting sewer, it's where you want that high density development. Your open space plan wants to look at what areas do you want to preserve. So you have two ends of the growth continuum and plans that will help you manage your growth. With the open space, managing open space and where your sewer service area can go. This, I'm using a 2011 official map. We still have this official map, the current one on file on our website. But one of the things that was the objective was to take from Route 422 connectivity from Lewis Road to Swamp Pike. In 2009, you had to take a jaunt right onto Ridge Pike and then left onto Swamp Pike. And if you want to go to the next plan, we actually had a developer come in and want to develop that corner. And when there's a plan in place and the plan is clear, it allows township staff at a very early level to talk to a developer who's coming in before they have their performa set, before they have their bank financing set of what they think they're going to get for yields, and they're still in their due diligence phase. If they are aware of what plans we have, it helps them help us help them. And this is an example of that. The extension for Swamp Pike, the extension of North Lewis Road, was created with this plan and was later built. So this is one of those things you're not going to see on a current official map because it's an improvement that was in place that we were able to work with developer to make happen. Let's move on to back to the official map. I'm just going to do, I think, one more of builder related. One of the main objectives, one of the other objectives was to allow in 2009, they looked at Linfield Village and it's tight. Main Street is tight. You can't widen it. There's one way in, there's one way out. And this plan said, well, you know, if we go up Longview Road and can get traffic to this interchange, how would that happen? And so what you're going to see here in highlighted yellow is a whole bunch of series of roads and roadway networks attempting to connect, which was the goal of connecting Linfield Village to this interchange so that this interchange and Main Street could relieve traffic flow. So there's a whole bunch of roads. All we need is one of them to connect, right? To make this happen. But we're putting every connection that we can think of on the map so that there's a possibility for connection to happen. Glenn, what's the next slide have? Go on. Okay, so this is our corner, our Costco is over here. And a while ago, this developer came in to develop this side. Because we had a road on our official map, we had talked to them early on. And this is a plan where they had put two roads through their property somewhere in alignment with our official map, which could facilitate a future roadway connection. This obviously isn't built. This plan doesn't have, I don't believe, an approval. But it's just a conversation point of when there's a plan there, as development comes online, it allows the township to get in at the ground level of what our plans are. You want to go to the next slide, Glenn? I just keep coming back to that because it's easier. We'll keep going. This one here, that same connectivity. This developer came in with townhouses on the rest of the track that was originally developed the mall. And because we had that roadway network on our plan, they added a connector road that is in design here. It's not built. This plan did not move forward. But it allowed conversation of, hey, we have an official map. We have a comprehensive plan. We have an official map from 2009, and our official map from 2011 looked at a roadway connector. How do you get people out of Linfield? So as developments come in, we have been showing what our official map has, and developers are able to accommodate to the extent that they can. So those are some examples. We have one example that was built. Some of these other examples are in the process, but it opens up the conversation. It allows for the conversation. If you want to go to this last one, there's a couple circles here. That's the intersection of North and South Limerick Road and Ridge Pike. That needed a traffic signal. Our traffic impact fees were able to pay for that traffic signal. So that's the Act 209 planning that goes in place that looks at regional infrastructure and looks at community assets and collects money and puts it into a fund so that when there's a pressure for volume, this is going to help facilitate the volume of cars running through this intersection. At the same thing happened down here. There's Royersford Road and Linfield Truck Road. There's a temporary traffic signal there now, but that intersection was designated on the original official map from 2011. So it was one of those things that put in place. This is an objective of the township. This is, and then as resources and pressure hit, this was how the plan was able to be enacted because we had a plan on the books. We were able to move the plan forward. And so this is just a brief history of like how planning works and what you could be thinking about for as the next comprehensive plan comes up, what type of, every time, and I'm gonna tell you, every time things get improved, there's gonna be a whole new set of issues. So it's not like, it's just like improvements to your house. You can fix the roof, but then, you know, you need new windows. There's always gonna be another set or another level of higher priorities, because when you fix the highest priority item, it's no longer a priority. The next highest item becomes a priority. So this next comprehensive plan is thinking about where we're at now and what we have now, and where do you want to take the next steps for the next planning process. And that's what I have for comprehensive plan. So that, just keep in mind questions that you have. This is not a solid history, but it's just a scope of what planning has happened in the past in Limerick, and to set the table for as you go into Monday night, as you hear everybody's proposals based on the criteria was set forth for them of implementing a new comprehensive plan. This is what has been done to date. So,
thank you. Do we have any board comments?
Okay, I have a disclaimer for the public. They don't know you very well, and some may think that we were punishing you by having you do any of this whatsoever. But please confirm that this is your wheelhouse, you love it. Like, I'm not telling you to say that, but please make the public understand that we did not force you to do this, that you really do love this. You really, really do.
So that's where I go back to thanking Dan for allowing me to work with you on the comprehensive plan. And he said, Greta, 10 minutes. And I started looking at what I put together and I was like, oh, I have a little 10 minutes, and I apologize for that. But it just sets the table. Like there were struggles in 1910, right? There were controversies in 1910. There were plans that were put on the books. There were residents that said, no, we don't want that plan. We want another plan. And then there were controversies that were put on the books that just vaporized because technology changed. And so too with the next plan that you do. You know, you're going to put plans on the books and some of it's going to happen. And you're going to put plans on the books and some of it's not going to happen. But that's how planning works. It's just getting something in place that collectively as a board allows the administration to then work the plan that you all want. And allows us to help you get where you want to go for your next 10 years, your next 20 years.
Is there any resident comment? Can you just grab a microphone, please?
Don't
tell me how many of these I got wrong.
I don't want to scream at people, but actually that was pretty interesting. And it was only 8 minutes, so it was great. Do the people that are proposing this comprehensive plans get the benefit of seeing that information?
Yes, we gave them an RFP. We gave them a request for proposal that had guidelines. And we gave them all of the plans that we have currently that have been done. So there's certain plans that are not going to be done. Like the open space plan was just done in 2022. That's not changing. The trails and greenway trails and master plan, I can tell you we accomplished a lot of goals in that trails and master plan, and it really should be updated so that we're addressing gaps. Like the next study for greenways and trails and master plans is where are all the gaps? Because we have a lot of trails. Maybe we just need to start looking at how do we connect what we already have. So they have been given all of our plans that we have to date. from the 2009 comprehensive plan to all of the plans that I had listed. And they're also gonna, some of these organizations have done this before. Some of them have done it very well. And so they're gonna come with their own. But also there was input from the residents that we know at the time. These board members have been, they're out knocking on doors. They're something wrong, they're getting calls, right? So they've got a pulse on the community. So they were also telling us what they hear, what's the concern, and housing is a concern. I can tell you just very high level basic from housing, nobody wants any more townhouses, right? So how do we fix housing? How do we make housing, how do we allow for people who have lived in this community and raised their family in this community, how do they retire in this community and do so graciously? How do we do that? So there's a couple of objectives that we know of, but the point of the comprehensive plan process is to put a committee together, to put a series of public meetings together, to gather all of the input from all of the community so that it is a community grassroots plan. And what they'll do is they'll collect all the voices in as many formats as they can. They'll do surveys, they'll do public meetings. They'll say, what do you like? What don't you like? What you wish you had? Who wants a dog park, right? Oh, all of the things, right? What do you want? And then they're going to rate all of them. When there's 98% of the people saying we want the same thing, that's high on the plan. And then they're going to show the scattering of like, sometimes there's going to be a one-off that somebody wants, but sometimes somebody's going to say something and there's 5 people in the room and says, yes, I do want that too. It's a community process. Yeah. It's going to take 18 months or so to put the plan together.
Yeah. And then I've noticed on different maps that I have access to that the township owns property. And I was just wondering if there was, I can think of an example, it's behind the tech school. There's a tract of land behind the tech school that the township owns. It's not Carilla Park or anything like that. And I was wondering if there's anywhere where you can look easily to figure out how much open space the township already owns and what the current plans are for that.
We can get you that. I do know some of the open space that we do own. There were plans done between 2015 and 2018 for a couple of the major tracks to passive parks, active parks. What could a development of the park look like, or that open space look like? But I can get with you on. I can give you a call tomorrow and send you a phone number, and then we can talk about what particular property that you have you're thinking about. And I can tell you what plans that we have.
Like, it just kind of surprises me sometimes because I'm like, oh, what?
You know,
it's great, but like, is there a plan for that, or is it a risk?
Sometimes plans, sometimes plans are just for owning property. It may not be for development, but it may be to leave it rust, to just let it in its natural state. Not all township-owned property is active recreation. You want to protect the greenways and the byways also.
You're welcome. Great. Any other resident questions? Seeing none. Thank you very much. Much appreciated.
My pleasure.
And moving on to new business, at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Glenn.
Okay, thank you. So, sorry about that. As of June 22nd, Victory Bank was acquired and became Q&B Bank. So at the beginning of every year, we put a list of our depositories that the township uses. We just need to update that list at this point to include Q&B Bank as a replacement.
I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second? Great. I have a motion on I have any additional board comment? Resident comment? All those in favor? Aye. Okay. Perfect. Additional new business, I'm going to turn over to Dan, and it has to do with the appointment of a conflict solicitor.
Yeah, this is pertaining to our 2 data center applications. Just based on the
issues that are being discussed and some strategies and things that the township may want to discuss on behalf of the administration. We're recommending that we make a change in our conflict solicitor and appoint Michael E. Fury as conflict solicitor per his email engagement letter submitted on June 24th, 2026.
Do we have a motion to appoint Michael Fury as conflict solicitor per his email?
I make the move.
Second.
Any board comment? Any resident comment? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We have additional discussions this evening, and I'm going to turn this over to Dan and Glenn.
Yeah, I'm going to try and be brief with this. Glenn, can you pull up the info thing real quick? This is based on a desire by the board at the last meeting to bring forth the ordinance amendment list that we had there with the budget amendment. So I just want to, thank you, Glenn. I thought it was important that I just give the board, I wanted to do this. This is kind of a real quick, brief budget overview with the board, because what I want to stress that some of the ordinance amendments that you're requesting, not all of them, but some of them have long-range implications that the board has asked us to look at this year. But I need the board to understand or to give us direction, because some of it may change the strategy of the budgets based on how we allocate monies and so on and so forth. So let me just, with that in mind, I'm going to get to the ordinances very briefly, but the budget strategy that we have followed for many, 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 many years are those three basic business guidelines: improve efficiencies and reduce costs without a reduction in the level of services, seek alternate non-tax revenues, and then institute long-range planning. Brett did a very nice job with the long-range planning. I'm not going to get into that again, but basically based on how we structured the budget, these, go and just scroll up a little bit. These basic policies have been in place that I, as the manager, direct my staff as we pull together the budget. One is we have a conservative approach for revenues. We look at economic trends and impacts. The second one, when we pull the budget together, we have been directed that the staff should not anticipate a tax increase to fund ongoing operations. Okay, so that means same level of service. There has been a policy that the township board has wanted to maintain the tax rate, the total tax millage rate in Limerick below the average of all 62 Montgomery County communities. And then adherence to the 2018 investment policy, this is one we sold to the sewer, that the interest earnings would be used to fund the general operations of the township to reduce the tax burden. That is, again, ongoing services. The board can allocate principal funds or some of that interest to capital projects or other wish list type items, but to use any monies out of the reserves, that it has to be allocated during the annual budget process. So those principles are what we followed and has given me as a manager clear guidelines on what we bring forth and talk to the board about. Now with that, just keep scrolling here a little bit. The very first budget that we present to the board is called a status quo, where again, we look at staffing levels, we look at services, we look at salary increases, inflation, all of that, and we say, okay, board, this is a snapshot from this year to the next year of what it's going to cost to run the township at the same level of operation. Keep scrolling. The other way. Keep going. Let's see where we are. Yes. So anyway, as he's following, just get the capital request. So capital requests, when we talk in the budget about capital requests, these type of items are brought forth to the board by department heads based on what they feel is needed to maintain same level services. A real quick example of this is through the years, the township accepts dedication of roads from developing. At a certain point, public works director will come forth and say, hey, listen, I can either use my existing crews and spread out the maintenance of the roads, or I need extra trucks, or I need extra manpower. So if I get the extra manpower and extra trucks, I can maintain the same level of services to those roads that we do across the whole township. If I don't, services may come down because I'm spreading crews out. Many examples of how that happens based on the growth of the township. But when we talk about capital requests, that's what we do in the budget structure. Unfunded requests, as we move through that, is basically the wish list items. These are high level issues. They can be small, they can be big. These could be issues that come up by the board during the year. They say, hey, during a meeting, they'll say, hey, I want to look at this, or I want to look at that. Unfunded requests is a perfect example, is our new playground that's under construction. That has been an ongoing desire by the board to replace that. It's a $2.5 million project around there. We sought out grant applications for many years based on the initial business policy to seek alternate funding. We weren't successful, but our grant programs based on that policy has brought to the township about $18 million, I think our last total, of grant funding to this township in the past 2 decades. So the grant funding didn't work for Mandarack, but again, so we talked about that. That was an unfunded request that would pull money out of the reserve funds, and the board allocated that. There's other examples for the road projects we've done for the years. There's also minor issues. There is a request that was brought up earlier this year that I talked about last meeting to do leaf or curbside leaf collection this fall. We're going to talk about that, not tonight, but coming up soon. That would be an unfunded request. It would add to the budget. It would increase services. Our playground is increasing services. So that's how we categorize that as, above service levels. So with that, that's the budget structure. Go scroll to I might have to budget for new IT there too. Get the scroll right there. So at the last meeting, I brought up the cost of these ordinances. Some of these are unfunded requests, want to be done this year. Some of these are long-range planning. Some of them, in our estimation, should be incorporated with the comprehensive plan already. Just talked about. What we need from me with Glenn and finance and the department directors is to get an understanding of what you want to advance either this year or next year. And I will just say that we're in 2026. So the budget objectives of 2026, I, as a manager, is what I'm following. If the board in future budgets, we can talk about it tonight, we can talk about it later. But I'm just giving you an understanding of why, when I bring these ordinances to the board and I put costs to them, it's because of the budget structure that I've been directed to follow. So category 1, the data center ordinance that the public wants to see us move forward. The Main Street and the parking are all very high level reviews that I believe are going to require outside consultant costs, a lot of legal, a lot of engineering costs to get the full proper ordinance before the board. Category 2, again, there's a lot that the others we can go into specifically. Cybersecurity, the e-bikes, they're minor. They will add costs to the current year budget, but I just need the board to give me a direction on where you want to go for these ordinances tonight. And again, I think that was the direction from the chair who wanted to add this and have a discussion with the board. And again, so.
Yeah, I know I had added the Main Street I think given the comprehensive plan that's gonna be starting, I'm okay with postponing the Main Street to bring it into 2027, or Greta could guide me best in that. If the Main Street plan actually then becomes something that gets handled in the comprehensive plan and looked at and reviewed as we go through that process. She's not saying a word.
Is this for discussion?
Discussion. Are we at
Is that
discussion?
six,
So,
seven?
so is
I know,
does the
right?
plan actually create ordinances, or is the plan for the, or for the next set of ordinances?
You're talking about the comprehensive plan?
Yes.
So let's just use the Main Street zoning district. It's the whole, pretty much all of Ridge Pike. That ordinance puts in place parking, housing type, commercial type, whatever, density, setbacks. If the comprehensive plan, I'm just going to real high level, says we want to stop all development, all residential development. We don't want to add to the school district. We want to basically cut down on how many people are moving into Limerick. Then that's going to change what you put into the Main Street district. And that's just an example. I'm not saying.
No, but great example. But the comprehensive plan, at the end of the comprehensive plan, we're not going to have an ordinance.
No.
The ordinance will have to be created.
Right.
So I just wanted to clarify because it's late. I just wanted to be sure I heard right. So I think what I heard Connie you saying, Main Street happening after the comprehensive plan. I'm sorry,
I'm saying that
for an ordinance for the Main Street would be after the comprehensive plan, once we know what the community wants for that area.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And the big thing was getting the comprehensive plan, which we're moving forward with. So that one, I would say I'm comfortable with that coming out through the other side.
So people that can see the screen, the top says proposed 2026 ordinance amendments. So we're at this point taking off or promoting, I suppose it could be promoting ordinance amendments for 2026. Are we making 2 lists, 3 lists?
Oh, that's up to the board. I was told to move these ordinances forward by individual board members. And I said I want to have a discussion with them all based on the budget structure. So if the board wants to move all these forward this year,
then that's one thing.
Some of them are going to conflict with the comprehensive plan.
But we definitely need to do the data center amendment. You heard that this evening. We need to continue to work on that. I got my parking stuff done, so I'd be okay removing those. And the other ones are minor. Not sure the e-bike is.
I was going to say, I don't think the e-bike is minor.
Nothing I would worry about right now.
Oh, no, I think the e-bike needs consideration. It maybe has a lot to do with where I live and where I go to work, but there are lots of kids on e-bikes, on sidewalks, on the streets. And I think it's important that we know if we need to handle that or not.
Well, why don't we just go one at a time? Is there an overall desire by the board for the data center ordinance amendment number 2?
Absolutely.
Yes, I'm a yes.
Okay, I'm seeing enough heads on that one. The Main Street.
Hold after comp plan.
I'm a little hesitant on the Main Street only because the confirmed appointments, the land development's coming in before the 24 months when we have a finished product. And then add on the time of actually, the 6 months of doing an amendment is a pretty long time to have people with us kind of juggling and saying, I don't know what we want, I don't know what we want, I don't know what we want. Is there a hybrid that we can do so we can give people guidance somewhat to don't build necessarily what we don't like today in the next 24 months, but here's some ideas because we did a hybrid of something. Can we consider that at least?
hybrid?
Yeah. Yes.
Mhm.
But let me ask Greta and Dan, can you do it with your skill, but
Can you limit
is it
the
feasible?
expanse of?
Can you guide us through that process?
You would have to tell us what you want.
Okay.
And if there's consensus from the board on what kind of vision you're looking for, we can go back and put an ordinance together. But we would need consensus on the vision.
Okay.
So we can bring that back for discussion specifically on what you want to see in the Main Street district. We can come up with a hybrid plan.
No, I like that.
That's going to play directly into parking. There's the two of them, because that's going to.
Well, I was going to say, I didn't want to give up parking because it is, to me, like something that if we can avoid conflict within communities, it's important that we do it.
So, I mean, two things with parking. It's within the individual residents' homes. It's within the
Thank you.
thank you, the planned communities, and then there's parking. I'm concerned with the developments we're getting in. I don't think the garages and the parking spaces are enough.
That's what we're talking about. Right. Yeah.
Versus, I know Patrick said some of his parking concerns were taken care of, right? With the ordinance that was passed.
Right.
Right. So, I mean, parking. So I would.
But I would question parking still has to encompass commercial, not just residential. So just
100%. Yeah.
And we can base that too, with the type plans we got coming in.
So I'm hearing that there's a desire to move all three together in the first three in some form.
Kind of like maybe a blend
Discussion on
of the two parking in Main Street, but the data center has to be number one.
And then I would like us some kitty bikes.
I have a question to the police chief about e-bikes. We're at either one. Isn't that handled by PennDOT, what they're allowed to do, and our enforcement is based on the municipal code, the motor code?
It is. I can't get too technical. So right. I'm not even equipped to do it, honestly. Right. Our traffic sergeant is well versed in this. Problem is that there's got to be like 15 kinds of different motorized or electric vehicles out there now. And I'd be lying to you if I told you I could look at one going by me at 20 miles an hour, discern what it was. Traffic sergeant can. I can't. So is there a need for it? PennDOT does regulate it. He's got a full equipped PowerPoint that he can distribute to you guys if you're interested. It kind of says what PennDOT already outlines as far as permitting and not. And if you're going to spend the money to go through with this and create duplicate efforts, perhaps there's not a need for you to do it if you thought that fulfilled your needs. If you didn't think it did, then maybe there's more incentive.
No, but then maybe we do make it part of a meeting one night where there's an education and a breakdown from the traffic sergeant on what PennDOT.
He would love to put on a Greta presentation.
Right, and I think I would love to hear it, but I want to go a step further.
He's watching right
now. Okay, but I would want to go a step further and need to make sure that that is visible and prominent on our website somewhere. And also that it's on the Facebook, the township Facebook, the police Facebook, the park and rec Facebook. And if he wants to give some YouTube presentation on this, that would be great. It's important for the parents because the parents need some look. You can't do this. Like they need some help with this scenario.
He could probably paint a better picture for your guidance and definitely go offer anything that we thought the public would be interested
in. Dan, I would like to add him to the agenda. Not tonight, but in the future.
That was the point of me bringing up the police. I don't think it's.
They are well regulated.
Yeah, it's already taken care of. We can do it.
That's what.
Yeah, I've heard other municipalities say enforcement is the hardest.
That's the hardest
part. Between the trails, the roads, and
ordinances with that.
So I think the private property owners need to understand it's their right to not have them, just like the school district. The school district said no e-bikes on our property, period. Property owners have that right. We just need to communicate that they have that. For example, you're talking about when at work. that's private property. You know, it doesn't, it's not a
It's more,
public thoroughfare.
more an educational purpose for it instead of spending time on changing ordinances because they exist.
They exist, correct. I agree.
Perfect. We
I'll
look
talk
forward to
him
it.
and, yeah, he can forward it to you.
Great, thank you so much.
I do want to say that cybersecurity is out of the category to, for me, having experienced an issue with cybersecurity recently, and how much it limited the ability of a company to conduct business. I definitely see that as an issue and a risk for the township, especially with, I'm not saying that our IT doesn't do a good job. That is not what I'm saying. I'm saying specifically to make sure that we have our I's dotted and our T's crossed regarding cybersecurity, because should we get hacked, that's a lot of people in the township who can't do business. It's a lot of business that we can't do, that, you know, we can't respond to, we can't mitigate. It becomes really hard. I had somebody who I know worked for another company who had a large ransomware attack, and literally like a week later still couldn't operate a multinational corporation. So,
And Glenn, was that not brought up by the auditor as well?
It was.
It is always
Yeah,
brought up
it
by
was.
others.
But I agree with that, but it's that we need to set up policies to handle it. It's nothing you need to pass an ordinance. It's just, you have to do policies and standard.
I think that's a bigger conversation for people qualified to tell us.
True.
They need to be in the room. We need to be educated more on where are our weaknesses. Do we have weaknesses? Don't we?
I don't
know
disagree.
that,
I don't
so
disagree. I just think that needs to be, we need to develop policies of how we do it, not necessarily spend time on an ordinance on cybersecurity.
We need the proper people in the room to have this
I was
conversation.
exactly. I
Great.
just don't think it's in the right spot here.
and I'd be fine going through that, like, as part of the budget process. I think it's a useful exercise for us to go through, but I think we just need to really make sure that we have it handled, not just for our constituents as well, just make sure that,
Perfect.
you know, because they're submitting, a lot of our residents are submitting some sensitive data too, so.
Right. So Dan, can you add cybersecurity to a presentation in a future board meeting as well? To Kara's point, get the
I
right
don't know if
people
it
in the
needs to be
room?
public.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if that's wise.
Yeah, no, to Linda's point, I'm trying to figure out as you're talking, which ones we're going to put on the 2027 budget versus this year. So just keep talking and
I think it's important, as long as we move it forward as part of the 2027 budget, I'm okay with that. I just want to make sure that it gets, you know, kind of up there as far as, because if we can't operate, it's a problem for all of us.
yeah, I can tell you, and to Pat's point, we believe pretty sound policies on cybersecurity that staff follows internally. Whether that has to be put into an ordinance, we're going to find out, but we will have that discussion and we'll move that one forward. That one may be a 2027 discussion in the fall. I'm not sure yet. No. Signage is, I think, a little more broad-based as well, Greta, signage.
It is broad-based.
What's it?
Yeah, that one will take a little bit of time.
Yeah. And that's all like commercial signage and all that. It's just our sign
It's
ordinance
streamlined.
is very outdated, so we believe that needs. So that one's not critical right this minute from a planning standpoint. That could be a 2027 discussion.
It's not critical,
Okay, perfect.
but what you're gonna see with the next zoning hearing board advisories, 2 or 3 of them that are on your agenda are signs.
You'll see why it's outdated.
2027, and then solar is the last one.
Which would take place in our comp plans as to what our goals as a township, how we want to use solar energy on our properties and how to educate people and encourage them to use it.
Right.
Especially with the grid not being able to handle stuff, we need alternate ways to generate energy. So that I think, but that would be more with the comprehensive plan, not really an ordinance. just to say that it's acceptable that you submit that, that we would encourage that.
I'm hearing Pat's suggestion to push that off till comp planner 2027. What's the other board members feel? So, seeing two nods. Okay, so that one will bump. All right, we have our direction. We'll look to amend the current year budget based on what we feel. I'll talk to staff about what I feel we can get done this year and moving all these forward, and we'll get them scheduled. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And on to our next update, and I'm going to turn on meeting security, turning that over to, yes.
This is just a follow-up based on, I believe, some resident comments about where we stand with pulling the conditional use meetings back here and in security in general.
Sure, yeah, I understand there was interest you'd expressed about some residents wanting to return to school. Chief Madalab has discussed this previously. It's not much evolution. I'll go over a bit. The threats haven't stopped. There's still been online postings suggesting violence. The last ones that I observed just after our last meeting. I don't have particular details, but identified personnel online, threats towards pointing to the board and data centers. Nothing I think you need to be overly concerned with. I've discussed this with a couple of threats persist, so the case remains open and it remains active. Just trying to make sure that we're investigating for criminality and how much danger there is. That being the case, we revert back to our threat assessment. Threat assessment goes over things like environment of where we have the meetings, vulnerabilities of where we have the meetings, and potential types of threats. We go down it, we go and try to mitigate whatever we can in those lists to reduce danger. That's kind of what we did the last time, to identify that the school just has far too many what they call access control points. In layman's terms, the closest thing would be doors, but it's a little more complicated than that. It's points of entry, it's points of vulnerability, there's tactical considerations involved. I could have 10 times as many officers as we have. We still have less control over the school than we have over this facility. I know that's not something that people like to hear because we want community engagement, but I'm not responsible for community engagement. I'm responsible for public safety. So I can tell you that when we look at the threat assessment of this building, it's more secure. If that helps.
Thank you very much for the update. Thank you. I have an update on the intermunicipal agreement, Freedom Valley Medical Rescue.
Yeah, this is real quick. Just to remind the board, we have an intermunicipal agreement, Limerick and Lower Southwick Township, in support of the Freedom Valley Medical Rescue Ambulance Company. Township pursued a local service grant. There's another LSA grant. The township was awarded $400,000 for them to buy ambulances and equipment. At the time of the grant application, the intermunicipal agreement was sent to them. They seemed to be okay with it, so they gave us the grant money. We sent our first payment request in for the Freedom Valley purchase an ambulance, and they came back and said, well, they need the intermunicipal agreement revised now to specifically state the interaction between Limerick and Freedom Valley on how the grant monies will be utilized. So this is a last minute request. I was surprised to get it, but it's something we're going to have to pursue. So all I'm asking the board tonight is approval so I can work with Rebecca and her office to just process a quick amendment to that, and for the authorization to have the chair and I sign that when it's ready. There is no substantial changes to the intermunicipal agreement we're pursuing. It's only going to be specific to the LSA grant and us getting the money in and our oversight of Freedom Valley to make sure that they're buying the equipment based either on co-stars or proper bidding and just proper accounting processes. That's all. So just a motion for that.
Do we have a motion?
I give you the motion.
Second. Any board comment? Any resident comment? No, this is about the the topic at hand. We still have a full meeting ahead of us. Yeah. Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
I apologize, but I have to leave because I'm scared. Please. Travel safe.
And moving on, we have our zoning hearing board advisories. So we have ZHB 26-4 commercial pursuant capital.
Is the applicant here? Yes. No, hello, Rob.
Thank you, Rob Gunlock, for the applicant. Here with me is John Petco. John is the owner of the property identified as 3323 West Ridge Pike. If the board recalls, and by way of very brief background, the applicant was here last month to discuss a proposed plan for the development of Mr. Petco's property. That property is located in the Main Street zoning district, and that district does allow a mix of residential and commercial space. Mr. Petco currently operates a auto sales and repair business along the very front of that property between Ridge Pike and the riparian corridor, approximately 300 feet to the rear. According to Mr. Petco, that property was zoned for residential to the rear and commercial in the front for the 40 or so years that he has owned the property. And he was involved and consulted with when it was rezoned to Main Street district several years back. He was not consulted with during the amendment in 2024 that imposed a requirement that certificate of occupancies must be issued for commercial space before residential could be constructed. He has put that up for sale. He's part of his retirement. He's closing his business down. We were here last month and we discussed a proposed development plan with you, and that plan contemplated the development of the property for single-family homes. We received some feedback from you at the meeting that night. We then went to a work session with township staff and two of the supervisors. Thanks for your participation, and we received some comments at the meeting that were very helpful. One comment was about sewer and the need to extend that sewer down Ridge Pike. Another comment was about increasing the open space, increasing overflow parking, providing a second or third access to the community, and also the ability to provide more affordable housing as part of that community for residents in the township who want to stay and continue to reside in the township. The applicant went back and looked at the plan again, and particularly those comments, and came up with a revised plan that requires less zoning relief. In fact, the revised plan does design the plan in strict compliance with all the requirements of the zoning ordinance. It actually significantly increases the open space. It significantly increases the overflow parking. The excess parking is double, more than double what's proposed and what's required. The open space area is almost 4 times what's required. And the only relief the applicant is seeking is, instead of building commercial space out on Ridge Pike or back within this community, that the applicant just deed restrict that same amount of land, actually more land than is required for the commercial space as part of this community. That is, build less, have less traffic, have less conflicts with commercial space, particularly given the vacancies in retail spacing along the corridor now, the extreme vacancies with office space. It's just not needed, and this property isn't suitable given its configuration and shape. The location of the riparian corridor is a very limited spot up front for the applicant to develop commercial, and the applicant thinks it would be more beneficial to have that area completely deed restricted as open space as part of the community. So the applicant did file an application to the zoning hearing board. That application contemplates simply one item of relief, and that's a variance for the elimination of the need to build commercial and the deed restricting of that whole front corridor for open space with some open space amenities, including a dog park, a tot lot, some parking there, and potentially some additional recreation facilities that could be available for use by the residents in the community. Again, The affordability element, particularly, which was conveyed to the applicant through several stakeholders and sources and surveys the applicant looked at, was looking for more affordable housing that could be available to residents here in the township. There is very, very limited housing stock available. You can just look on Zillow and see how few homes are available. Pricing of those homes, pricing of that new single family community there off of Fruitville. Right now, I think there's a house listed for $900,000, a small single family home. And certainly at that price point, it's going to suggest that that's affordable housing or housing available on an affordable basis. So the applicant thinks with this configuration, they could provide that type of more affordable housing. A good example or similar to this was the housing that was built behind the existing Sheets location there. That housing sold very quickly. That housing is available. I think there's only 2 homes left there in the $400,000 range, which is certainly more affordable than the singles that are selling for $900 million and up. So the applicant is just here again to show you this alternate plan and get your feedback on the plan before going to the zoning hearing board and seeking a variance for the commercial space requirement. The applicant has alternative relief, but the applicant would just like to focus on the variance relief and get your thoughts on that relief and the revised project as depicted on the plan.
I feel this is like Groundhog Day. You're bringing us the same thing we talked about that we didn't want. Where's the commercial? You still said the dog park.
Yeah.
And now you doubled the number of houses you want.
Yeah.
What type of housing is this? Are they townhouses?
Townhomes, exactly.
Hey,
Similar
we
to
mentioned that we wanted to kind of get away from that. I'd like to see like a no frills, maybe like a rancher on a quarter acre for somebody to move into.
Yeah, those homes.
Townhouses are going for the price. I mean, they don't have to be fancy. I'd be okay if you had a bunch of twins there, but you brought us a totally different plan, and this is not what we want. That's why it feels like it's Groundhog Day. You didn't listen to what we said. You brought something totally different. And again, you're trying to dictate to us what you wanted. We told you we wanted. Where's the commercial? We talked about it the last time. I said, where's the commercial? And you tried to skip the thing. And I said, where's the commercial? And here we are again. Where's the commercial? You have to do it.
So, thank you, Pat. My objection,
yes,
and I noticed that you quoted me in here, but you failed to address one of my largest concerns, which is a second access in. That's not an emergency access. That is a true second access in. And I had mentioned before when it was 51 homes, that if there's an accident on Ridge Pike, people cannot get to their children, their elderly parents or whatever. And now that you've doubled it, you still don't have a second access in. And now it's 200 people who are sitting in traffic because there's an accident on Ridge Pike and they cannot access their home. So I do want to acknowledge the fact that I appreciate that you heard that I'm looking for something that is more affordable. I also want something that people can master on the first floor. I know we talked about that in that meeting, and I didn't see townhouses coming back at me. We had a different conversation that day. I had voted initially to send our solicitor in opposition, and my vote in that direction still stands.
Okay, and by the way, you did mention that was important to you to have that additional access. We acknowledge it, and we are still, the applicant is still working on it, but that requires the acquisition of private properties, and it's just nothing that happens easy, but they did plan for it by putting a curb cut on the one side of the property based on some discussions, and they are talking to the rear property owners to the rear about an additional roadway that could go out to Fruitville, and that's something that more information to forthcome on that as part of land development if it gets that far. But you know, the applicant is of the opinion, as I described at the last meeting, that the ordinance is not a valid ordinance because it requires certificates of occupancy to be issued for commercial space before residential can be occupied. And you know, the applicant would love to work this out with you for Mr. Petco here, but if Mr. Maroney feels that and the other board feels like you have to build a commercial, then it's just not going to happen. We're just not going to build commercial space. It's not needed and it won't be leased. And so, and there's no market for it given the configuration of this property. So, You know, we're sorry about that. We wish we could do it here. It's just not an appropriate property. I think you're going to see the other two developers have plans that they're not going to lease that space. They're just going to let it sit there and it will turn into open space. And we're just being upfront and saying, we just want to provide the open space. So I hear what you're saying. I
Well,
respect your
the
opinions.
market you stated was office. I agree with that. That's not the only thing in America that's commercial.
Yeah.
You're just giving us examples that definitely are not.
Yeah. Well, we're not going to put, Mr. Maroney, a strip center down front there.
We don't need one.
Okay. If you take away a strip center and you take away an office, there's nothing else that you're going to put on this property that is going to satisfy your office. What you're going to get from the other group up the street is you're going to get 2 strip centers up there with the dry cleaner, the pizza shop, the smoke shop, all the things we don't want to build and we don't want as part of this community at the doorstep. So we'd rather give you open space, less traffic. There won't be any traffic from it. If we put commercial there, there'll be more traffic, more potential emergency issues like the chairwoman is mentioning. Open space. We want less. We don't want to build all that we're allowed to do. That's what this applicant's
You
looking
added
for.
another 50 units.
Yes, we did.
That is more traffic.
That is more traffic.
Okay.
Yes.
So we're not talking about traffic of the commercial right now.
Yes.
And there is a viable commercial business right now. And it is for automotives, if I'm Limerick Family Motors.
It's no longer viable. It cannot compete in the marketplace. That's why it's closing.
There are other automotive groups that I believe think this property is very valuable.
Okay. But Cheryl, that's only about 5,000 square feet. We'd have to put 120,000 square feet of commercial space mixed all through this property behind the stream back in the residential corridor. You know how many residents will get out here in opposition if we put commercial back there up against the residential? It just doesn't fit for this property.
I'll bet you a quick lube company would die to have that place.
Okay, but that quick lube company, they take 5,000 square feet. Where do
But
we
it's
put,
commercial.
where do we put the other 100?
But that's you wanting the density.
You want density.
But that's your desire.
Yes.
That's
That's
two
an
separate
example of a
issues.
commercial property that a commercial use, that's acceptable.
Okay.
Because most people don't want to go to the dealer to get the oil changed. A lot of times, I know we do have a lot of facilities here that can do that. Sometimes they're not always available when you're available to do it. And I'm just saying is, there's options out there. You're just saying there aren't any. And I think you can do a better
There's
job
not
of doing
saying,
that.
no, I'm not gonna speak for him.
No, I'm not saying there's not options out there. We're saying we don't want to put a strip center out front. We don't want to put an oil lube out front of this residential community. It's not the appropriate location, and this property as configured is inappropriate for that. But look, again, I hear what you're saying. Mr. Petco is extremely disappointed. The applicant's disappointed that we can't work it out. We would have loved to have done the single family plan or the townhome plan to provide more affordable housing. And Charles just going to say, it was done in response to some other comments that we saw about why isn't there more affordable housing in Limerick Township? If we build those singles after looking at the additional improvements that are required, including the rear road, those singles will sell for the same price as the homes are selling for right on Fruitville.
But there is a quality of life issue with being able to access your home.
Yes.
So I understand that you want to do this for density because this is what your profitability is for you and this is your business model.
Right.
But it's our responsibility up here to make sure that what we build and facilitate actually is user-friendly and enjoyable for our residents. Limerick is a great place to live. Not being able to access your home if something happens on Ridge Pike, that is not an enjoyable experience. And if you have somebody at home that is sick, you have an elderly parent you're taking care of, if you and your husband are working opposite shifts to make this stuff work, and now someone's late to get to work because the spouse can't get there, that is a quality of life issue. And that is really important to me. I need you need a secondary access. This community, especially one of this size, people need to be able to move efficiently and freely through this development. That is my opposition. So I want to put a motion on the floor to send Rebecca in opposition. I have a first and a second. Is there any board comment?
Actually, I wanted to have some.
Oh, I'm so
comments.
sorry. I just like
Got there.
Kara, I
Waiting for my
apologize
turn.
immensely. I'm sorry.
That's all right. So, full disclosure, when we talked, it was myself that said, if I never see another strip mall in Limerick, I'd be happy, right? You accommodated that. I appreciate you looked at the parking. I appreciate you looked at the open space. When we were having a conversation with staff, you know, we talked about, well, how do you keep the amenities for the residents there versus the general public? Like I thought we were on the same page. I am not in favor of putting commercial there, but that goes into the bigger conversation of the Main Street ordinance, the comp plan. It goes into those changes that I said, are we making people wait 24 months to 3 years till we have some kind of generalization to give them? So I'm saying I don't need to see a strip mall there. I don't need to see another vape shop. I don't need to see another nail salon. I'm good with that. The conversion of the single family to the townhomes, that's a deal killer for me personally. The secondary access, especially for that density, is crucial, very important for multiple reasons. So I'm glad you heard us. I'm glad you took our notes, and you worked on it. I appreciate that. The density and the townhomes, and listen, I'm a realtor. I get how much it costs to build a house and to turn, I get it. It is uber expensive to build a house. The materials are just unbelievable in cost. I understand, but us sitting up here in these chairs, we have to protect those residents that are going to be sitting there in those homes. So the fact that you converted it to the townhome theory, I'm not, but I really do appreciate you taking the time to listen to us and what we said.
And your comments were terrific, and I hear the chairwoman's comments, and we haven't given up on finding a second asset. It's just difficult to negotiate, to purchase properties, to bring a road through other people's
Absolutely,
properties.
there is a dollar value. I agree.
Still talking to 2 people over there, and we're gonna try to get that no matter what plan we build. But we didn't want to lead you astray to think that we're gonna build 50 single-family homes and sell those on an affordable basis. It's an impossibility.
It is, I agree.
If you put the road in the back, that's probably an additional $1 million in site costs to acquire land and build a road through.
Absolutely.
And so all that has to be added to the homes, and those homes will sell for $800,000, $900,000.
And that's what they
and
need
we
to
don't want to lead you
understand the
astray
value.
when we're talking about trying to build more housing that's affordable, not affordable housing. People say affordable, there's no subsidies here. It's just housing that's more affordable for people who live here, and we would like to try to do that too.
Right.
It's just hard to put all those pieces together.
I don't know if we have to actually send opposition necessarily. I mean, that's on you, but I mean, there's so many things here that just wouldn't fly. So that's your call.
So I think I have a motion on the floor in a second, correct, for opposition? Okay. Resident comment? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Thanks for your time, and hopefully we'll work this out and be back and continue to work on a plan that everyone can find suitable. Thank you. Yep.
Thank you very much. All right, and then we have the ZHB 26-05, Americo P. Muscarella. Good evening.
Yes, good evening. Hopefully switch gears. Rowan Keenan, representing America. Also called Rick. He's here with me tonight. He's here with me
It's getting late, yes.
In case there's any questions. Again, Rowan Keenan, representing the applicant. If I had to choose, here to ask for your support, but you can either lend your support or have take no issues or be indifferent to the issue, or again oppose it as you did in this last application. this zoning hearing board application is for mainly or primarily, the primary focus is for an off-site sign. That's the primary, I guess, issue if I had to categorize it. The applicant actually, and that's one of the reasons why we're making the application, because it might not be an off-site sign, and I'll present that to you just whether you want to oppose it or not. The applicant owns 155 Futura Drive, and also we're asking for your support because we are, the sign is in support of the uses that are permitted and approved by the township. The applicant did a reverse subdivision and is opening a storage unit facility up on 155 Futura Drive. It has absolutely no exposure on Ridge Pike, no opportunity for signage, nowhere that anybody can see that it even exists up and back. The property is significantly sloped. You might be familiar with the property where Sharp Engineering is, Sharp, I believe. And I drove by it every day for 10 years to Pottstown. You know, there's the hill and you can't see anything up there behind it. And it's in a depression too, in the drive between the airport and the Saratoga interchange. So in a highly commercial area. Now the technical appeal, and it's somewhat technical, as I said, just changing gears. The technical appeal is off-site signage is not permitted in this district, and it's signage for the next door property. Americo again owns both properties, so they're adjoining parcels connected. So it's technically an off-site sign. Also, the off-site signage is not permitted to be electronic, but again, that goes to our question and our argument and our request that'll be to the zoning hearing board, that it be permitted because it's for a business that is right next door that is not necessarily an off-site sign. You know, a de minimis in some sense of the term, of the wording, request for relief, and that the sign is going to be in the Main Street district on what is now vacant parcel, but adjoins the parcel up in back, of this development. That it used to be, I believe, 3 parcels that were combined into 1 parcel now, 155 Futura Drive. Also, I'll just mention the other 2 requests for relief. The signage permits a 6-foot sign when electronic signage is used. The sign itself is only 5 feet, but again, because of the extreme slope and the grade of the parcel, and that all the uses are up high and in the back, we have requested that the sign be a bit elevated. The sign itself is 5 feet, a bit less than 5 feet, but we've requested that it be elevated above the ground. Now, it's still lower than the highest point of the parcel on which it's on, you know, because the parcel goes up. But it is a total of 11 feet tall. It doesn't compete with anything in its appearance. It's not getting in the way of anything. It's not just really distracting from anything. There's nothing there in its vicinity whatsoever. And maybe sometime in the future, that parcel will have some sort of commercial use on it as a pad or some sort of office space. But there's nothing there that that it conflicts with in terms of character. So, and also the one other restriction or ask that we're asking for is it is within 500 feet of an occupied dwelling. Now, those occupied dwellings, I believe, I can't speak for I'm not speaking for every one of them, but some of them are definitely grandfathered in, and some of them are rented dwellings, Sawchuck's property, I believe. But for the most part, we sent notices to all the owners or for the zoning application And just to give you an idea, because it's between the airport and again, the interchange, most of the properties are large commercial properties. There are only 14 owners, which is very few within 400 feet of this rather large property. So, I mean, we included the notices to the residential owners, but again, one of those is Ken Sperring's empty. I don't know if it's empty or not, but the residence right across the street, which I'm not sure it's going to be used for residents for that much longer. But that is technically one of the requests here. So that is what I'm here to present you with. I want to make sure you understand what is happening. And again, if I had to choose, I'm requesting your support so that we can make the use of the facility in the back 155 more productive. But I don't know that you'd have any opinion on this request.
Yes, please.
Yes, okay. You heard us earlier talking about potential ordinances we want to look at, which signage was one of them. I am going to be a proponent of updating our signage language because it is outdated. I also drive by this property several times a day, every day, 5 days a week. I know it very well. I am in support of if we are going to allow businesses to conduct business in our township, they have to thrive. In order to thrive, they have to market. Signage is important for a lot of types of businesses as they're only marketing. I get that. I am supportive of this request. I am just going on record saying that our signage ordinance is outdated. And we're going to have to look at these by piecemeal until we get to that. So I don't think we have to go to support necessarily. Neutral, I think, will be fine, but I'm not sure how the rest of the board feels about that.
I appreciate it.
I do have a couple of questions, in particular, if maybe Cal or somebody can educate me very quickly on, or Greta, the buffers 400 feet from a residence and what the goal of that was. And the concerns, is it light pollution? Is it these like a digitized sign or just the lights for the sign being I'm curious what that is about.
I think I'm going to defer to Greta on some of the details. I believe the 400 feet may have predated any up-to-date and new technology with signs. It probably has to be for aesthetic, for glare, for that kind of reason why it has to be set back so far from H1.
I might clarify just a little, and I don't want to become target at all. But no, to clarify, because just to clarify on some of the difficulty and some of the, not to say that this is specifically in its nature an outdated portion, but anyway, it is a very specific issue because it's 500 feet. It's that no off-premises sign. So not the electronic. It's no off-premises sign is allowed within 500 feet of an occupied residence. And that is just an overly broad protection. So I don't know if Greta has any. I just wanted to clarify exactly what the 500-foot thing was we were talking about there.
Okay, I appreciate that clarification. Yeah.
400-foot mailing requirement buffer within the property.
But you had said it as well, like there's a protection. So
Yes,
I'd like to know more about that protection. Greta? I'm sorry.
Also, I'd like to, not that I'm advocating for him, but you have to understand that piece of property when it says off-site. So I think that's part of where your debate is.
I'm here to learn and understand
the
this.
topography of that site is very unique. And I think that plays into his application.
So typically an off-premise sign is a billboard. So it's typically a for-profit, principal use on a property that is not the use of a building that's brick and mortar that has a business inside of it. It's usually its own use, it's a billboard, and it's for advertising.
Or even anywhere nearby.
And so when you look at all of these regulations for off-premise signs, off-premise sign is anything that is not on the property. And typically, when you think of an off-premise sign, you're thinking of a billboard for advertising. What they're proposing is a sign that is not on their property because their property doesn't front Ridge Pike and it's on a dead-end street. So technically, it is an off-premise sign. But you could say it's restricted to advertising of the property that's on those roads or any of those properties that are on those roads. So there's, what other business did you say? There's Sharp Engineering?
Well, yeah, there will be someday a business on this parcel.
Right.
Which that sign, if it's electronic, I guess, it could be permitted for, and it wouldn't violate any of the all-premises issues.
So Futura Drive has an engineering company in a business. It has the storage facility that Rick is building, and it has a vacant property, and they're proposing to put this sign on that vacant property. So because it's advertising Rick's business, it's off premise. So you could say condition, but I don't want to see you advertising mattresses for sale that aren't being sold on inside one of those buildings. You could say it has to be advertising one of those businesses that are on Futura Drive, not just advertising for the purpose of advertising that a billboard would do.
I was going to say, because with that being digitized, it would be a small billboard, but what would stop that from becoming like a third party source of revenue to put that on there, which then becomes a billboard that that the ordinance didn't want off premise. So I would need to send the solicitor with a condition.
You could drop a letter.
Okay.
You had the condition fences, you have the application be agreeable, and that was just a letter. No need to send me.
Okay.
Yeah, if that's the board's desire, we'll figure out how to get a letter to the DHB solicitor so we can inform them.
I think that zoning hearing board should let them have it because I want to send somebody say, hey, we support this guy's. Well, we have to get like that because they denied him before. And I wanted to be told that we support it.
But it wasn't the zoning hearing board that, it wasn't the zoning hearing board that turned it down. It's the zoning officer who turned it down. They submitted the permit and.
All right, I read it as the zoning hearing board denied.
Yeah, no, this is, so, yeah, our zoning office said no because of the ordinance that we have in place. And so their only remediation is for them to go to the zoning hearing board, correct? Okay.
Well, I just wanted to know that
yeah.
I support his, because he's got a special condition that you can't see his place. I didn't know there were more places up there.
That's his hardship, that's his space, right? We say what we want to, how we want to support the boards.
Right, you're either neutral, you support, you don't support.
I support
you can
his
support with conditions recommended.
I'm only one.
Can I be neutral with the condition?
If they're agreeable, I mean, we can always recommend something to the ZHB, whether or not they impose it.
I just don't want that digitized part to be turned into a future, even though it's small. I understand that. I don't want it to be turned into any sort of advertising that does not exist on either the property that the pole is standing on or the public storage
The
that was
devil's
there.
advocate sometimes sound good. So what about the Limerick Fire Company, or the Limerick Fair? The Limerick, Carnival.
We talk about
So
with businesses.
the new ordinance we're going into?
So let me have.
One point of clarity. Is this a digital sign? I thought it was just a sign.
No, it's both. Correct.
It's both.
Static and digital.
It has a digital aspect. So a a storage center also will do rates and will do, different, put information out there.
You
about
can
their-
promote your business on
Absolutely.
that sign,
And
but
it's
that can't,
Certainly, I mean.
and that's
I-
within the
I'm not-
business's right to support the fire department or to support the EMS. But I don't want that turned into a Wawa sign or a political sign or something else along those lines. Mhm.
Please. You only support business of the
Mhm.
and not, we might do time, or we might do, whatever,
Mhm.
what the temperature is today. That's the only thing we would do.
Yeah.
Have any emphasis on political, whatever.
Mhm.
So
Perfect.
we would appreciate that with that condition.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So do we have any sort of motion on the floor? Cheryl, do you have any comments?
This has got nothing to do with you. I hate signs and I hate electric signs. It's not you. I want you to be prosperous here in Limerick. I really do. I grew up someplace where there were no signs and everybody found where they need to go. So I am, if you've been paying attention, I say no to all signs. So just
Including the township sign.
including the
The township sign.
So how do we do business when we have no storage?
Here again, I've seen places that have done fine without. I understand, like Kara says, and Connie also, she has a gorgeous sign, but here again, I don't like signs. So
So I will move to send support in the way of a letter from our solicitor on our wishes for the majority of the board. That is my wish.
With the condition.
Yes.
With the condition in there. So I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sorry.
It's getting really late.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. And moving on to our next sign. It's 2606 Montos. Am I saying that? Motos? Modus? Okay.
Modus Development LLC.
Thank you. Welcome.
Condo Association, Brielle Brown with Kaplan Stewart. We are here representing the applicant tonight. Just for a brief background, the property is located at 14 West Lightcap Road, and the property is improved with an approximately 139,828 square foot shopping center, which is more commonly known as the Gateway at Saratoga, as you can see on the screen there. The property is located within the LLI Limited Light Industrial Zoning District and is subject to the LLI Interchange Overlay District, as well as the Pottstown Limerick Airport Overlay District. And as I said, the existing use of the property as a shopping center will remain, and we are here to also discuss signage with you all. So on the property, as currently, there are two existing freestanding signs, one which is located around the Chick-fil-A location, and then another at the Panda Express. And the applicant is proposing one additional freestanding sign that will identify the 9 tenants, and that will be located at the exit of the shopping center off of Evergreen Road. The sign will be approximately 77.3 square feet, which is permitted by the code. And essentially, we are asking for 2 variances. The first to permit, again, that third freestanding sign, because your code only contemplates 2, one at the frontage sort of location and then one at an additional location. So your zoning officer has made a determination that we would need a variance to allow the third sign. And then the second variance is to permit the sign without a pull-off lane. And so we have, I think there's another, if there may be another exhibit in there that sort of shows where we want it placed.
Do you have another exhibit? Do you have another exhibit?
This one, sorry.
There should be one, is there one more?
No, there was just 2 of this.
Okay, that's no problem. But yeah, those are the two variances that we are requesting, and we did have an aerial, but essentially what that aerial depicts is we're dealing with a lot of landscaping around our frontage, and we're sort of trying to work within the confines of the way the site is currently set up. And so we just want to have this additional sign to be located off 422, the roundabout, and we believe we won't need that pull-off lane, which is also contemplated by your code for that additional sign as well.
All right, can I start again? Yeah. Okay, please. Again, our sign ordinance needs help, right? Never in all of my years of driving have I seen somebody pull off and look at one of these kiosks to decide where they want to go.
Yes.
It doesn't exist. It's just not reality. That being said, I'm okay with your request for the pull off. Like, also, there is a huge parking lot that they safely pull into to look for the businesses. That's a better scenario, that they're off the roadway. They're not a hazard to traffic going by. So I appreciate that. If we are bringing businesses into our township, we want them to thrive. We want them to know where they're at. This being next to a huge complex of the outlets, this helps, again, narrow down where am I going. If it's in this front versus going in the outlets looking for Chick-fil-A, albeit help them.
Right. So
I am in support of this. I don't know if we have the Sun support, but again, it's other conversation. That's us. I'll go next. I'm kind of wondering, we have a 4-tenant limit. Is there a specific reason besides, like Chick-fil-A has its own sign, Costco has its own sign, like they're kind of well-known and established. I see the need for the smaller ones that aren't part of that drawing in. Why can you not do just the 4?
So even, you said you're referring to the Costco and Chick-fil-A, right? So even without those two, I think we would still need it, because we'll also need signage for the Panda Express in the Mattress Warehouse, which is also on our sign plan. But also the signs that you're talking about are also blocked a little bit by landscaping, and we don't have any other sort of full not directional signage, just freestanding signage showing all of the tenants on our property. So this would be the only one that we have that shows literally every tenant on the property.
So you don't have any other sign that lists your tenants?
No, we do not.
Okay. Is there inability to not put it, because that's a do not enter sign.
Correct.
So I am concerned that people who are not familiar with the area, who came into the community because it is the premium outlet, we get a lot of people who are coming through the community who aren't here, who don't experience this every day. I worry that that sign there, being so close to that do not enter, could become a problem for us with people just being careless or not paying attention.
I mean, Mark, you may be able to speak to more of.
That other exhibit is the aerial. If you could just zoom into the location.
I have papers stuff. Do you want to point it out to me on the paper? I mean, just so I can.
Would it be amenable to have a directional entrance?
Is this the one you're talking about?
Continuing down Evergreen, is that a possibility?
Sorry?
On the bottom of it, would it be a possibility to add a directional entrance, that direction entrance with the arrow pointing, continuing down Evergreen versus them thinking they can pull in? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm just going to look at this and see if there's a physical barrier in Evergreen.
I mean, I do. Is that the map you were looking for?
Yes.
Okay.
This was one of these. Yeah, it's like clear. It's like triangle, it's like an easel, etc. So we couldn't pull it back, reset. We were hoping to get as close to the 422 exit and on ramps and off ramps as physically possible. I just think that's the market.
So this really is a visibility issue.
Because you can see the landscape here, the new landscape, just the trees and quite frankly in the rendering, which was a useless image. You can see the evergreens are growing. So albeit there's signage on the rear of the set current meeting, which is probably updated now. That-
And that is our landscaping requirement, by the way. So.
Oh, no, I'm hearing all of that. Yeah. I know. I still, I'm very concerned about where it's placed going into, like, where that is there. But I'm one voiced, so.
We're certainly amenable to taking it further towards Wawa, if you will, to try to add that knee-jerk reaction.
I mean, because when you come across signs like this, they're usually at an entrance.
Right.
Yeah. Any other board comments?
Is there?
Can you throw on your mic? So, if anyone's still watching on YouTube.
Medium right in front of the entrance, so nobody can turn on the other.
Where the do not enter, there's the.
I'm looking at that. Yes.
Concern alleviated. Thank you, Kat.
Thank you.
Todd or Cheryl, do you have any comment?
Girl doesn't need that hot truck feels.
Sorry.
I just saved like $3 of gas not driving around the wrong shopping center.
I was gonna say, I would like to stay neutral, but I don't know what Pat's thinking.
My concern with neutral is this is drastic from our ordinance. Drastic. So, yes,
And the letter in support.
but we have them down at Sonic, we have them down across from the Target Shopping Center, we have them. So it's not a precedent.
Yeah, it's another special condition.
Right.
I'm okay with it,
Neutral.
because they're able to document why they asked, why they requested it. So I'm okay with sending a letter supporting it.
Letter of support. So do I have a motion on the floor?
No conditions, but just a letter of support, that's what you're asking for.
Yeah, I mean, there's the barrier in there. The engineer doesn't see that there would be a problem with that crossing through. I've heard through our budget plan tonight that we have a sign ordinance issue. Greta spoke to that earlier today as well. So I would go along with a letter of support if that's what the board wanted. So.
I just don't want the zoning hearing board to deny his request. I think they have a legitimate reason for requesting it. It's not like they're coming and saying, I want to do a zoning variance because I want to put in 10 more houses. It's to me, this is a needed thing. To me,
So that's your motion.
to send a letter in support.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking that's what you were saying too, right?
I was fine with neutral or either. I just want to understand where you were at and if there was.
Well, I just want it conveyed to the zoning hearing board that we would like to see this happen, and you know what I'm saying? I don't want them to just come and say, no, I'm part of zoning, and this is something we would like to see.
Yeah, I mean, there's the letter of support, but. In a second.
All right, any additional board comments? No, any public comment? I think the public. I don't want public. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks for sticking it out, Rick.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much. Moving on to a tricentennial update.
I actually think we need the tricentennial update earlier, so it actually gets given versus.
And do we have a manager's report?
Just very quick on the update on the playground damage and the park damage. So we're at $11,000. We still don't have the cost of the replacement benches, the 4 replacement benches. So we're probably going to be, I don't know, 12, 13,000. We haven't gotten those yet. The biggest item is the replacement of 3 porta potties that were totally damaged. We had to buy new ones, not buy, well, they're our responsibility. So $2,000 a pop to have another one brought on because they were damaged on township property. So that was $6,000 of that. So, but I do, real quick, I want to send a shout out to Arc Plumbing from Bechtelsville, who sent us a message saying that they would offer to help with the plumbing repairs, like the labor costs. Our guys were able to do it all, but I just want to thank Arc Plumbing in Bechtelsville for reaching out for the help.
That was
Thank
great.
you.
So-
Thank you, Arc Plumbing.
Yeah, and just real quick on our IT updates, Tim asked me to just report on it. We're hoping this month, they're just backed up. It's a very busy time, but we're hoping to have them soon. I'm done.
Excellent. Do we have any public comment? Now, from the sole survivor here. Supervisor comment. No, I just want to say thank you to everyone who participated tonight. Public input is an important part of the process, and I appreciate everyone taking the time to share your views. We will be reviewing the suggestions heard tonight along with the feedback from the Planning Commission in the near future. Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Yes.
Oh, I like it. Do I have a second?
Second.
You did the motion.
No,
Or you did? Okay. All those in favor? Aye. You're better.